County Board of County Commissioners now in session. We're going to start out with the prayer and the pledge. If you would, please stand. Heavenly Father, we thank you today for being with us and giving us this good day. We thank you for the opportunity to look at situations, circumstances, issues we face together today, and hopefully bring clarity, insight, Lord, and a way forward on all these issues that we're looking at today on our agenda. We thank you for the people that live here in Franklin County and those who visit our shores. Pray you bless us the rest of this day and give us all a good day in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So up first on the agenda this morning is approval of minutes from our April 20th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That carries unanimously, Jessica. Up next will be payment of county bills.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion before we vote?
Yeah, what that is, Abbott, on that Abbott payout.
Which one, Commissioner?
The Abbott.
Jay Abbott? He's asking I think,
He probably did, I mean, I can assume, he probably did some work for someone with the, with mold or mildew or something.
Okay,
I think.
Yeah, we can find out.
okay. Thank you.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That carries unanimously, Jessica. Before we go to public comments, Mr. Marone, you were telling me that Sheriff Smith had sent you something last night that you
He
didn't notice?
sure did, and
All right.
my overlook didn't pay attention to my phone. I should have last night. So I think it is Correction Officer Week. Yes, sir. I saw it in the news, and I was thinking about you when I watched the news. I should have checked my phone at the same time. So would you approach the podium, Sheriff Smith?
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I apologize, A.J. Smith, Sheriff Franklin County, I apologize for not getting with y'all sooner. A lot of things on everybody's mind, I know, but it is Corrections Officers Week and correctional professionals. There's a lot of different people call it different things. I call mine correctional deputies, but anyway, it's a week to recognize the correctional folks in our jails and prisons. And I'd hope maybe to get a proclamation or something like that, but I have a couple of my staff members here. If they want to come up for just a minute, I'd like to, whatever y'all feel appropriate. And
Go ahead, proceed.
they just do an amazing job at the jail. And, you know, going through COVID and going through a lot of the stuff that we've done with the old building to make it really pristine and nice and a good environment for the inmates to be in and the employees. If it wasn't for these folks, come on, y'all. Major Summerhill's leadership, Lieutenant Millender, Captain Varnes couldn't be here this morning, and just a host of staff, but they do a tremendous job. They're unseen because they're kind of on the backside. You know, you see the deputies out on the road, you interact with them, but a lot of folks don't get to interact with the professionals that are in the jail, and trust me, they are professionals, and I can't praise them enough for the things they do, and they save us money. I mean, I don't think we've had, how many COVID cases have we had?
None.
Zero. I don't think there's too many jails around Florida that can say they've had 0 cases. And it's not from luck. It's not from anything like that. It's from the leadership of Major Summerhill and Lieutenant Millender and just their eye to detail and doing things right. And even when we are at, like right now, we're almost at maximum capacity. I've been on the state attorney. I've been on Judge Sherstrom. Let's do something about this. Let's get this population down, because I was afraid we were going to have an outbreak. These guys, smooth as silk. So I just wanted y'all to recognize them, and I wish I could bring everybody from the jail here and yeah, really, and let you know, give them some praise. But like I said, I can't say enough. And Major Summerhill, unfortunately, is retiring. He's only got about another month, and he's on to North Carolina, living in the mountains, fishing, traveling, you know. So I'm a little bit jealous. I'm thinking about canceling his drop. But anyway, if y'all want to say something, please do.
I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all for the opportunity to serve this community, serve this board at y'all's pleasure and y'all's will, and to serve Sheriff Smith. It's been a great career, 32 years plus. I kind of don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm used to working all my life. That's what I keep telling people. I don't know what's next. Only God knows that. But I'd like to thank each and every one of the people I've worked with during my career that has made me the person that I am. I've learned a lot from a lot of people, and I've taken a lot away with me, and I got a lot of friends, and it's been a good career. It's got a good path for me, and I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all. Thank you.
Let me ask a question. Last night in the news, not to interrupt, some of the officers were saying this is actually a very good career, you know, if you think about it. I mean, yes, it does take a special person to do it, but could you guys attest to that? I mean, is it really a good career?
Yes, sir. I can attest to that. After 32 years, I've enjoyed what I've done. People's always asked me why I do what I do, and I enjoy my job. I never wanted to be a deputy, even though I've been asked, you know, but it's not something I wanted to do. My place has always been here. Like I said before, God gave me this job. He gave me this position, and He helped me influence people along the way. And that's why I'm here. It's been a good job, and I encourage people, young people, you know, if you're seeking a career, to get involved in this. It's a very good career. It's got good benefits and stuff, and a good retirement. And we're looking for correction officers now, so anybody wants to put in, we need male and female correction officers. And I know Franklin CI, they need them too, so they're really low. But yeah, I'd like to encourage all the young people that this is a good profession, an honorable profession. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Hi. Really, I think he about said it all, but it has been, I'm going into my 21st year serving the county, and I'm very proud of that. And I love this community, and I love what I do. We are the unseen in the back, but we're a vital part. And, you know, we're all just really proud of what we do for the community, for our families, for the sheriff, and we thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you. And, you know, the jail is a tough place because it's not like we just have a bunch of litter bugs in there. I mean, we have rapists, murderers. I mean, seriously, Franklin County got murderers and rapists. I'm afraid so. We got, as you know, a lot of drug people. So it's a tough job. And those folks are locked up, you know, 23 hours a day. And we try to find, you know, things to do and for those folks to try to keep them occupied so they don't want to tattoo and try to smuggle in drugs. So it's a tough job. And again, I hate to see Major Summerhill go, but I think he's ready for a break. He'll probably be back. He's still kind of young to retire, but, you know, you can't tell some people some things. They gotta go and experience it. Again, thank y'all very much. Any comments?
But Commissioners, do y'all have any comments you want to make?
Sure. Thank you guys for everything that you guys do. And as Sheriff Smith said, I know you guys are unusually at a high capacity, and I know you guys are short-staffed, so I appreciate everything that you guys do. So, and happy retirement to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Here's the big picture here. Last time we had our county commission meeting, we had the warden of the prison here pleading about the need for correctional officers. Today we have a wonderful example of correctional officers here to celebrate. And the common denominator to link the need is affordable housing. And I think we see it here in living color to be continuing to think about how can we find affordable housing in Franklin County to bring this kind of talent into our county.
Well, you know, not to get off subject, but actually one of our staff had the idea of when we clear the trees off the back, put a trailer there for, you know, if there's, because we have deputies now that don't have a place to live. I have one that commutes, stays with his mom sometimes, maybe having a couple of housing units there like they do on the prison. So that may be something in the future we do, just so that we can hire people and they can have a place to live that's economical.
Yeah, just add it to your budget and we can consider it. Yep.
Thank you.
I
Just
just
a-
want to thank y'all for your service, and Major, you enjoy your retirement. Bring some fish back.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Sheriff, also, if you would, I know that Captain Barnes, I believe you said couldn't be here today.
Right.
Make sure he's aware that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we wished he would have been here today, but we understand.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
guys for everything.
Thank you.
Okay, so up next is public comments. Michael Marone, I'm seeing one card for Mr. Gordon Hunter.
Yeah, and he's on the line,
Okay.
sir.
All right, go ahead.
Good morning, Gordon. If you unmute, you can go ahead and address the Board of County Commissioners, Gordon. I have your phone requesting for you to unmute. *6 on your phone, Gordon. He hasn't unmuted yet. I don't know if you want to take the ones that are in. Do you have two other callers, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry. You have two other people that want to speak, and you go ahead and take those. Okay,
This is
wait, I'm
Gordon
sorry.
Hunter. Can you hear me this morning?
Yeah, Gordon, there you go. You're unmuted now. Go ahead, sir.
Good. That was supposed to be a *6 instead of a #6, so I'm sorry I was a little late. But anyway, good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to make a few comments this morning. I listened to the last meeting in the discussion about the location of the new EOC Center, and I was really kind of shocked that there seemed to be very little preparation beforehand as to discussion of this, the pros and cons of that particular site. I have real concerns about it being so close to the approach end of runway 36, and I think there are better locations than that one. There was some discussion. I've had some informal discussion with some staff members at EOC, and they would really have rather had it very close to where their current location is, just inside the gate. There's a big open space of land that would be an excellent place for that. And then the discussion came up about a tower, and to put a tower, you shouldn't really put a tower anywhere near a runway. So I think there needs to be some further discussion on that before a final decision is made before the engineering company starts doing the drawings and plans and so forth. It just seems to me that it was rushed. Some conversation was brought up about county and airport leasing of property, and I think that there's probably ways to discuss that and find out how to get through that issue. But I really do think that the location should be closer to the airport, just inside the main gate to the right. It sort of feel like the same thing has happened. Without alternative sites that have been proposed, we had the same issue with the fuel farm. The engineering company gave a couple of alternative sites, and there's an opportunity to look at both of them, and all three of them, and the decision was made to leave the fuel farm where it presently is, which was the best decision. Those who operate in and out of the airport felt like that was the best decision. So I would ask that you look at that site again. I think there's some difficulties having it so close to the runways. There are better sites to look at, and I would hope that you would look into that. Going back to the second item of the fuel farm, we've looked over and talked with Ted Mosteller, and the fuel tanks that are currently there are perfectly serviceable. I'm not sure that we need to have those replaced. I think there's other things that could be done around the infrastructure around that fuel farm area, and I'm sure that the Triumph funds that are available for that would go along with improved infrastructure around the fuel farm rather than going to replacing perfectly good tanks that are there. Anyway, I just want to get back with you about those two items, especially the EOC Center. I think there's a better place to put it. I appreciate it if you look into it, do a little more research and discussion, and I think you'll find that there's a better place to put it than where it's been kind of pushed on the commissioners for the present location. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Was there anyone else for general public comments, Michael?
Yes, you have two speaker cards, sir, in front of you.
Right. This says SHIP program, the other one says attorney remarks.
The
I'm
SHIP,
talking about for now.
well, the one for SHIP program is a request to speak on the public comment.
Oh, it's, okay, okay.
And I think the other one is also, did they say public comments? Mr. Langston, did you want to speak on the public comments, or you're going to wait until?
I'm gonna wait till.
The attorney report? Okay, yes, so that one you can write a
Okay.
attorney report on that.
So the next one would be Ms. Shirley Walker then?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Shirley?
Yes, sir.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, Ms. Shirley.
People, I'm Shirley Walker, and I'm here on behalf of my granddaughter that lives in a family home. And she got approved by the SHIP program, like say this week. And the man came out and inspected it. And the next week, she got a call from the SHIP director or either the administrator that they wouldn't be able to do the house because the county building inspector came out and said that the house was too bad of a shape for them to work on. And I feel like it was a Christmas morning, a kid looking for their bicycle, and they got up that morning and mom and dad hadn't gotten that bicycle. If the money was there, $25, she got $1,000 she got approved for, take that $25,000 and work on what you can repair without tearing the rest of the house down. That's my concern.
Okay.
Thank y'all so very much
Yes,
for your
ma'am.
time.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. Michael,
Well, wait a minute.
that's something we need to follow up with and find out what's going on.
I will, I'll get more information.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
you said she was inspected,
Big pardon?
the
You're welcome. Thank
SHIP
you.
inspector passed? She was inspected twice, two inspectors.
Two inspectors, one from the SHIP program, and the other one, I guess he went to Laura, and he told her that it wasn't anything there, and I don't even think he went to the house. It's too much of assumptions going on in our county.
You know, I know every house up there in our area where we live, it's called the Hill. And them houses can be brought back. I don't know why they doing this kind of runaround. Come out, they can't fix this, can't fix that. And like the lady said, you fix what you can fix, and maybe they can do a little part later on. If not, they can wait till them years up and come back and fix some more. That's how they've been doing it all the time. I mean, I seen houses was on the ground and they bring them up, and they nice houses. They got them refunction. The kid she talking about, she's a single mom with two kids, three beautiful kids, and what they can't use the bathroom. We got $25,000 there, but every time I look up on this paper where they got these trailers and other things,
Oh,
they getting $85,000 and $90,000, and then today they asking for 10 to 15 more. I mean, fix the lady house. And I don't see why they can't be fixed.
So, Mr. Morone, will you find out what's going on? 'Cause
I will.
honestly, I had, Ms. Walker, I apologize, I had no idea.
sure.
And I think
Yeah.
we need to have a clear determination
Yeah,
over if the SHIP inspector comes by and inspects it and says they're gonna do this, this, and this, well, that's what they should be doing. So we need a determination so we know what's
yes,
going
and
on.
I'll say this, and Ms. Walker, I don't know this case specifically, but hey, Ms. Owens, I will say this. Recently, there's been, I don't know if the change or enforcement, that the housing, the state where we get the money from, has some rule that now says if you cannot fix it for whatever the county has set, their maximum fee, the maximum cap for repairing a house, don't do it. That comes from the state. That's not a local thing. That's the money we get from the state. Again, the state telling us what to do with the money that they give us. Again, I'm not sure if it applies to this particular case. I don't know. I have to go and check
So
and see.
that's another example of if something's changed, we need to be aware of
We
that.
need to be
Yes.
aware of it.
Yes.
Because we're the ones that citizens are coming to and
That's
looking
right.
to
Yes.
get, to get needs met, and rightfully so. But if the state's changed something, we need to know that so we can address potentially what our cap is or other things, because we can set the policies.
You can make a higher cap.
Right, you know
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
saying? So we need to know so we know what to do.
Yes, the cap is the counties. That is, you have that choice.
Yeah.
But, again, the state, like you said, the state does change rules, and we should, this board should be aware when something like that will drastically affect your applicants that's on the waiting list, that's been there for months, sometimes years, to get assistance.
And she's one of them.
I've been looking at them houses. I'm 70 years old. I've been looking at them houses all my life. And they not ready to be torn down. They sustain that, what Michael put through there 2 years ago. And I know it was over 100 miles an hour wind in here. So, some of the old ones standing when the new ones,
Falling.
they building today is falling down. They need a little rehab. Yeah, they need rehab to keep them up.
Yeah.
And if you can't fix it all, they ain't never fixed it all.
Nope.
Why they come up with that now? They never fixed the whole house at 1 year on that program. People had to come back 5 years later, 10 years later, and do it. That's how they were doing it. But they never done the whole job at one time.
Yeah.
And
May I say one more thing, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I administrated that program, same program. I say like maybe 15, 16 years ago. And I had to go back in there and ask the housing authority program in Tallahassee for more funds. Would they allow them to have more funds? And they did that. Now, I haven't come up with the law, with them, their rules and laws they have. I haven't read that what he just said either, because I know that in this county, we had one house that they had repaired, and they spent over $100,000 on that house when they finished with it. Because while I was there, we had to get $40,000 more, and that was to raise it up. And it's still there. And it was on the ground. So you can't go back and ask for more money. And I'm sure y'all commissioners know that. You people that's in office. Because if the money's there, then you need to use it. I also work with the Community Action Agency Weatherization Program. We only would give them so much. We only worked on trailers. But my main concern would always be the county. Because you have people that live over in East Point that was walking around on the bare ground. And if something could have been done about it. In their homes. But anyway, I thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley.
Appreciate you.
I think that was it for public comments, wasn't it, Michael?
Yes, sir. As far as
Okay.
I know.
take it easy, Louis.
Up next is Ms. Michelle Maxwell, Clerk of Courts, with her report. Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted the board to be aware that I did reach out to clerks throughout the state concerning booting in their counties. I discovered that Walton County just adopted an ordinance this year allowing for the booting of vehicles. I have attached a copy of their ordinance for your review. I did not find any other small counties that were actually booting. But I did find larger counties, including Brevard, DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota. However, all the counties that I found were using licensed security officers and or approved companies that have met the requirements of Florida Statute 316.193. Once their application has been received and it is confirmed that all the requirements have been met, the name of the immobilization agency is added to the court's order of impoundment of immobilization. I also attached a copy of that administrative order. The only concern that I have would be if the Sheriff's Department is the agency that's actually booting, how will the actual payments be received? Would the fee go directly to the Sheriff's Department, or if the board decides to impose a fine amount that needs to be processed through the clerk's office, then the payment would have to be received by an officer and brought to the clerk's office for processing. If the person receiving the fine pays with a credit card, how will that payment be processed? I also reached out to our Clerks Association, and I was informed that this is not typically something the clerk's office would handle, that the money would actually go to the private booting company that's actually booting. So I just need direction from the board on, who's responsible for the booting, and if the board wants to impose a fee and have the clerk process the fee, I would just need direction on that. And once I have a clear direction from the board, I'll be able to address the issue and give a suitable recommendation on the distribution of the fines and fees. So that's really my only concern, because I don't have anything remotely in place that if the sheriff were to boot and they were to make payment, they couldn't make payment directly to the clerk's office. That payment would have to get to the clerk's office. So that's my only concern with that. And I just thought maybe this information that I found would be helpful to you guys too.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Like you said, they pay the booting company.
Yeah, typically, whatever security officer or agency that they use, if they apply the boot on the vehicle, and then in order for them to release the boot, they have to make payment then. It's not like a ticket put on the vehicle and they can come to the clerk's office to make the payment. The payment has to be done at that time. So my only concern is, how would we process that payment if that is something that's put in place?
I guess my question would be this. Do the county get money out of that if it goes to the booting club?
Well, that would be up to you guys. That's something for you to determine. It's not like a traffic ticket that you can impose. A traffic ticket you have to hand off to the person. You can't just place on the windshield. So if it's Mr. Schuler, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a fine that you would have to, it would be up to you guys to place that amount.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the way the ordinance is presently structured is the sheriff would be the booting entity, and the monies would be collected by the sheriff and turned over to the clerk's office. I will also say that I drafted that more in terms of a general structure. I never went to the clerk and tried to get the specific answers to her questions, because I think we need to have this public hearing as a board and this public discussion, so everybody's in the same room at the same time chatting. But the way it's set up now, Commissioners, there would not be a booting company, because as I understood, one of the problems to be with the towing ordinance is actually getting someone to come down and tow on a timely basis. And so booting was being looked at as a potential alternative to that. There are some issues and concerns that I have with that, but we probably should wait until we actually get to the convened public hearing, because there may be people in the audience that are wanting to participate in the conversation, and they're expecting a hearing at 11:30. I mean 11, excuse me.
Okay. Cool.
Anyone else have any questions for Clerk Maxwell?
Thank you for getting the information.
You're welcome.
Okay. So next, since I see that our Senator Osley has entered the room, we're going to forego our department directors' reports, and Senator, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm sorry to just drop in.
You're fine. You're fine.
But I'm literally on my way. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, and I've checked in with superintendents to see if they had anything going on. And Superintendent Norton in Gulf County invited me to come to school board meeting, and I looked at the calendar and realized I'm driving through Bonners Yard meeting. So just really want to. This is a very brief session. We just finished the legislative session on Friday, and I've been back and forth with many of. Pretty much all of the commissioners, and
County Administrator, just to kind of keep you posted on what happened. I think we had as far as Franklin County and small counties, there's a lot of dollars that are coming down from Washington, and that's going to benefit our small counties. And so we were successful. This is obviously pending a governor's veto. We got to make sure we make it through the veto. But for Franklin County, the Fort Coombs Armory fire sprinkler system, we got $250,000 for that. And the city request for the stormwater pipe and backflow devices for $100,000. There are a couple of other things in the cultural. There's the Forgotten Coast Cultural Coalition, and the Southeast Archaeology Foundation, and the Shipwrecks of Dog Island, and Franklin's Promise. So there's some, those were in the competitive grant, but they got funded, as well as a $1 million for Apalachicola Bay oyster restoration. And I'm not exactly sure, we're trying to figure out exactly what that is. And I can come back when we have more information. My two priority bills, the broadband bill and a bill expanding our early learning, both passed. And we got $1.5 million for mapping, which Commissioner Jones and I have been talking about being the most important thing, to have the state start in a mapping process so that our communities don't have to do it, to figure out exactly where we have internet and where we don't, so that as federal dollars come down, we'll be in a position to be able to access those federal dollars. On the prison closure issue, I know that was a big issue. There was at one point a threat to close 4 prisons, and then it got down to 1, and then at the end it was it is not a mandatory closure of a prison. It leaves the discretion to the Department of Corrections to determine if they want to close a prison, and if so, they can apply the savings to correctional officer pay increase. So the next, now we're going to have to really appeal to the department, and that will start soon, and we'll figure out exactly what they're doing with that. Some things we dodged the bullet on: the Florida retirement system changes did not happen. The school board term limits did not happen. So there's a lot of issues that we're still piecing through. But while I was driving through town, I wanted to just quickly give you an update, and hope that with additional federal dollars coming down, I think it's really important that we stay in really close contact with each other. Y'all are going to get some money. The state, there's other pots of money that we can apply for water projects and infrastructure projects. So I think staying together, working together to make sure that we can take advantage of, I think, a once in a lifetime opportunity of one-time money to really make the investments in Franklin County that have been needed for so long.
Sounds good. Michael Bernal, would it be out of place for us to talk about number 6 on your agenda item, why Senator Osley's here?
I totally messed y'all up. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. This has to do with a Triumph meeting. So I wanted to, that way we can talk about it and make you aware at the same time.
All right, Commissioners, we're on page 10, item 6, middle of the page. I received an invitation from Senator Doug Broxton's office to attend an 8-county oil spill administrators meeting on Monday, May 24th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time at the Walton County Courthouse Annex in Santa Rosa Beach. One of the main meeting topics for discussion are projects that the board would like to fund with Triumph dollars. I think it's proper for the board to create a list of projects to submit to the Senator's office for Triumph funding prior to the May 24th meeting. The board could finalize this list, hopefully it's a one-page list, at your May 18th regular meeting. Board discussion and direction is what I was asking for.
Okay. So the reason I wanted to go ahead and handle this while Senator Osley was here this morning is I would like to see us at least consider as a board, and I know we're not forming it today, we're just discussing it, using Triumph dollars to take the mapping that's going to be done for broadband or internet services in this county, whether it be broadband in this area or cell towers for people that are further away, more sparsely populated, however that plan is, but that we could use Triumph dollars to actually institute all that and pay for the infrastructure. I think that would be a boost to our economy over time. I don't think we would even know what kind of economy that could provide for us, for the people that live here that already have businesses and for the businesses that are coming in the future, I think it's a real big draw to know that broadband's not an issue in a rural area. So I wanted to bring that up while Senator Ozzie was here. I know she fought really hard for there to be money to do everything, but that's a big rock to push. But she was able to do something with mapping, get some money, as she's already stated, for DEO to help with getting things started. And I just wanted to bring it up this morning while she was here. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Thank you for what you do. Doing a good job. If you had been in there earlier, you'd have heard a conversation that Ms. Walker and them had with the ship program, in which it's over in Tallahassee. But if you will, before you leave, would you talk to Ms. Walker, and Mr. Walker, they in the back, and let them explain?
Yes, sir. This is affordable housing issues.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I will be happy to do that, because that's an area that didn't get as much as it should have and could have, and I'm hoping with future federal dollars coming down, that's something that we can really focus on.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning.
Thank you.
Good
morning.
to have you here. Just complimenting what you said about broadband and how that looks. The state bought 17,500 acres of property here in Franklin County, essentially removed it from our tax rolls. Looking at some trade-off of perhaps some infrastructure that we could get established as a result of all that purchase of property. And perhaps there is a connection of that 17,000 acre infrastructure potential that would link the state with some of the Triumph money, and perhaps two entities getting together, focusing on that broadband opportunity. Now, I just wanted to kind of bring that up and link these two conversations together.
I think that's really, I think all of these conversations are timely, especially with the May 24th meeting coming up, because, you know, Triumph, even Hurricane Michael dollars, all of these coming at not at one time, but over the next year. Again, there's a whole nother, you know, swath of federal dollars for infrastructure, which will include internet. So, you know, what we might want to think about is asking for the Triumph dollars to be a match for the federal dollars or something. And I think we just need to be real creative. I mean, this is the time to you know, put our heads together and figure out the best way forward.
Especially when two entities bond together like this and,
Right.
and then present that to the Triumph board.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to talk about other issues that we'd like to have funded with Triumph while
Yes,
we're
sir.
on this?
Oh, yeah.
One issue I'd like to be looked at is the armory that we just got, the fire sprinkler system. As you know, when the National Guard had that armory, there was no fire sprinkler mandated. We got the building from the armory when the National Guard left Franklin County. All of a sudden now we got to have a fire sprinkler system. But to get to the point, we got a whole plan for that armory. It's been designated as the convention center of Franklin County. It's a huge building. I don't know if you've been in it.
I think, is that where the chef sampler was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we've done some major work to it as far as restrooms and a warming kitchen, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And we've asked Triumph for help to get some of these things done, and it doesn't produce enough jobs for it. There's landscaping to be done outside. There's some more windows that need to be replaced. The floor needs sanding. The inside the building needs painting. These are things that we could use Triumph dollars for. And does it create a job? Well, when you look at all the people that come and stay here on St. George Island, it creates a lot of jobs for people cleaning the residence when they leave. You know, I mean, the indirect benefits are huge. We rent that out for wedding receptions. They hire local caterers. When they're here, they eat at a local restaurant. So the economic value of having that thing up and running and being presentable to the public is huge. And you know, we've asked Triumph several years ago, and they wouldn't even fund the sprinkler system for us, which means we have to have somebody there to on guard, so if a fire breaks out, somebody's there to holler fire and get everybody out of the building, which is kind of, you know, here or there. But there's a $1 million project there that needs to be completed with new sidewalks, new landscaping. I mean, there's a host of things, and there's a plan in place.
having funding to do that with a rural county like ours, where we try to keep the budget down so we don't overtax the people. And I think that's something that needs to be applied for through Triumph too, but we're not eligible because it doesn't show a direct correlation to jobs. Everything Triumph does is jobs. So I hope that's on our list as Michael goes to his 24th meetings. That's just another a way that we could use some of those dollars that were allocated for Franklin County. I know over in the Western Panhandle, they built a 4-lane highway from 98 to I-10. How's that producing jobs? It's not, but we're a small community, so I don't feel like we're getting a fair shake, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's what this meeting is about that Michael's referring to on the 24th. And I just want you to be aware of that. I mean, there are some things, you know, we tried to do some stuff with the Bay, and they said, no, you can't do that. But I said, no, we're not trying to create a bunch of jobs. We're trying to sustain the jobs we already have. Well, that don't qualify either. I mean, there's just a host of issues, and I'm not trying to speak bad about the board members of Triumph, but I'm just saying these smaller rural counties such as Gulf, Franklin, and Wakulla have a little different needs than the bigger counties to our west, but we still have needs. And it's not like the money would be squandered. The money is not going to replace our ad valorem taxes, but it allows us as a small rural community to move forward. So I just want to throw that out there to be added to the list.
And I will say to that, I know that's part of the reason Senator Broxson is doing this. Senator Broxson and Senator Gaynor and I have spent a lot of time during session talking about those funds and how, you know, it's particularly important for the smaller counties, of which both Broxson and Gaynor represent. You know, they have smaller parts of their district, and Senator Gaynor has small counties as well. So I think that's the purpose of this, is to start trying to move that dialogue. I mean, I think there have been some attempts to deal with affordable housing through Triumph, and that's not, I mean, how can that not be an economic development purpose? I mean, you know, if you can't find people to come work, I mean, there's no place for them to live, and that's, I mean, to me, that's the source of all of these problems. Yeah. So, I mean, all of these things that we're talking about are completely interconnected, and I do believe we're sort of at this place where it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with different resources coming from different places, and we just have to be creative and make sure we're continuing opening the dialogues back and forth.
And one more thing, it is Triumph is using one size fits all, and it don't. When you're facing a rural community of 10,000 people, and then you got other communities got 400,000 people. Their needs are different.
Right.
And trying to move forward, those needs are different, trying to move forward. So, and I think that's something that needs to be reiterated at this 24th meeting also. You know, they're all about jobs, and we are too. But, you know, down here where we're at without a 4-lane highway, we're so close to the coast. When you're talking about tropical storms and hurricanes and other issues, it's hard to attract businesses to this area because the cost of your insurance goes up when you're so close to water. But we are what we are. But one size does not fit all, and I think that's the way the Triumph Board is handling this thing until it gets to certain people, and then everything's out the window when it comes to jobs. They build a 4-lane highway.
To Commissioner Parrish, to highlight what you were saying about the Armory being a convention center. So before COVID hit, Visit Florida was going to have one of their statewide meetings here in Appalachia at the Armory for ecotourism. They have since rescheduled that, and this coming February, they're supposed to be having that statewide convention here in Franklin County at the Armory. So it is something that's, you know, I know that people might think that, you know, we can call it that, but it'll never be that. But, you know, Visit Florida's amenable to use the facilities, so as a statewide thing. So it's good just to make sure the public's aware when we're talking about it. Real quick, since we're here talking about, and you want board discussion on all this stuff, so I would like to find out, since we still have to build a new facility, if we were trying to expand past what we're presently going toward, can Triumph dollars be used for our hospital? As long as we have a match. A facility that needs replacing anyway. If we were going to do more than just a hospital and add some other ancillary facilities there, could Triumph dollars be used for that?
You got a long list going there.
And to,
A lot of money.
And to reiterate on what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, you know, a hospital and good medical facilities adds to economic development.
Yes.
People don't want to move into a community when they can't get services,
That's right.
good services.
That's right.
So when you're looking, you know, from indirect impacts of people buying second homes, moving into our community, improving our tax base, a good facility like that would definitely contribute to that.
You know, a new rule, maybe an amendment to the rule, Senator, that if you're under a certain population, the rule states that not that you have to create new jobs, but maintain jobs that you have. That would be really helpful for us and the other counties that the Commissioner Parrish has mentioned. That would help under a certain population. You guys just have to show you're going to maintain jobs, like the hospital. That'd be a perfect example. We might gain a few jobs, but we need to do something to maintain what we have.
Right.
You know, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And like the Commissioner said, like Commissioner Parrish said, now, we've been asking for jobs. I've been here 20 years asking for jobs. One of them people get off I-10, east or west. It take them 2 hours to get down in here. It take them 2 hours to get back. They said that's a half a day. Plus, if they people eat lunch, they done lost over half a day and haven't done no kind of work. I mean, they just to get here and go back. And that's one of the biggest problems. I mean, it'd be nice if they put a 4-lane up 65 or 67, going to 10. That'll help a whole lot. But right now, we just got that 2-lane coming in, and you traveled it this morning. It's not in the best of shape. It looks.
But it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Until you look at the road.
I know. I don't tell anybody else, but every time I drive that stretch of 98, I think this is the most beautiful part of Florida right here. So y'all are lucky to get to look at it every day, for sure.
Well,
And it's hard. I mean, we looking for work. We'll take work, whatever. If somebody want to come in, but getting them to come, that's a bit of a problem. Then I just don't know how to do it.
And you know, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
you know, Senator Osley, this county is a tremendous steward of its resources. You need only look at some real hallmarks. In 1 month, we're going to start repairing that washed out road at Alligator Point. After 30 years of being a good steward of maintaining that road, we finally have brought the worst road in Florida, to fruition. And as you see how we honor the properties that we have, just look at our hospital. Certainly retro 1950s, but we upgrade it, we keep it going, we do quality management, that type of thing. Our bay is shut down. So, but lo and behold, here comes a 112% increase in our tourism year to date. There's something about Franklin County that's extremely magical, and I think the infrastructure is there, and I think there's so many things that we can do that will complement your efforts there in the Senate, and I think you've heard many of them today that I think we'd really like to pursue with you.
Looking forward to it.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Senator Osley, for being here today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and give us an update on what happened in legislative session. So safe travels to Gulf County.
Thank you very much. And I'll be back next week for the Panhandle Area Education Commission has their dinner next week. So I'll be here, and if there's anything anybody needs, you know, if there's anything, I think it's Wednesday. So,
Well, Senator Osley, I want to say thank you for everything you've done to represent Franklin County in this last session. I know that you maybe not expected for us to keep you as long this morning. Thank you for being patient with us.
Oh.
But I thought it incumbent to not only have these conversations with you, but now we've had them publicly, so the public is aware of the good job that you've done on behalf of Franklin County as well.
Thank you. And I'll come back when I have more specific details that just seem to be perfect timing to stop through. So thank you so much for letting me interrupt the agenda, and you guys have the rest of a good meeting, and maybe I'll see y'all next week.
Thank
You've
you.
done a good job.
Thank you.
Thank
You've done
you.
a real good job.
Thank you.
We've been trying to get that sprinkler system
For
for
a
20
while.
years, and you come in here the first term and got it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Take complete credit for it.
Thank you. Take care. That was a real treat.
So are we, before we move on, Commissioners, are y'all through with the discussion about the Triumph stuff? I just want to.
Well, if you guys want me to, when I get back to my report
Yes.
later in the meeting, I'll come
Okay.
back to that item.
Okay.
I won't skip
Okay.
over it. We'll just go
That's
back
fine.
and have some more discussion. Give
That's
you a
fine.
chance to think about it, sir.
Okay. All right, so next is Department Directors. That, although they didn't think we'd ever get to them, here we are. Mr. Howard Neighbors, Superintendent of Roads and Bridges.
Let's see if we can find Howard. There he is. He might have walked away by now.
There you go.
Maybe, Commissioner, you might want to go to Fonda, and then we come back to Howard. Is that possible? 'Cause I-
Yep, that's fine.
I don't see, oh, there he is, there he is, there he is. There's Howard.
All right, Howard.
Sorry about
Morning.
that, Chris.
You good?
Good morning. How y'all doing?
We're doing good.
I ain't got no action items this morning. We do got all our roads graded out that we usually maintain to the county, through the county, and we've been cutting grass. Started last week. We started from the west end of the county. We're gonna be going east. There's a lot of places that growed up. We have complaints. You know, we get it when we get to it. On account of being, short on the inmates and stuff.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Howard while he's here?
I'm sorry, if not, I'd like to go to item 1 in my report.
Okay.
Page 8, the very bottom. Howard, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about the Jingoli, the Duke Power people, since you are here, just to make sure in case anybody has questions, because I already see Mr. William House is there, and I saw Mac a second ago. Yes, there he is too, so they have questions. So I'll unmute them in a second, Commissioner. So item 1, and I have to share a screen, which I'll go ahead and do right now, if the board doesn't mind. Oh, wait, well, technology. Okay, so here I go. And let's go here now. And I need to share this. Close this out. Give me everybody. I'm getting there. 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. Okay. And I hope you guys could see this red cutout area right there. If not, I'll try and make the screen a little bit bigger. If that helps. No, minimize if I have to. All right, so item number 1. I was recently contacted by a Jingoli Power representative asking if the county would be interested in a lease for storage and laydown yard for telephone poles, transformers, service trucks, heavy equipment, and other related products. Jingoli Power acts as a subcontractor for Duke Energy. The requested area was next to the county's what's known as the State Yard off of Bluff Road, and I have a map there. Prior to seeking your approval today, the Jingoli representatives, they've cleared the use of the area with AFCON. So to pause there, basically they check with AFCON. They are above the runway protection zone. They're very aware of that. They spent a lot of time with AFCON clearing that. And as this is the airport property, but outside of the runway 624 protection zone, I probably said the wrong thing, Commissioner, probably the 624, that's the correct one. And with Mr. Howard Neighbors, your road and bridge superintendent, as this is located, as I said earlier, next to the county's road department storage and staging state yard area that is used mostly during storms and disasters. Jingoli Power would like approval from the board as soon as possible since hurricane season is approaching, and it will take some time for them to prepare the site for the use. If the board is inclined to approve this request, it should be contingent on Attorney Schuler's review of the lease. I have a copy of the lease I will forward to Attorney Schuler. So, and after some discussion, board action to approve the lease agreement contingent on Attorney Schuler's review. That review, Attorney Schuler will include negotiating the price. They have an offer on the lease amount, that's something for you to determine the value of the property, if it's fair or not. So again, board approval of proceeding with this project contingent on Attorney Schuler's review and negotiation of the lease. All right, so questions, because I have some of their two representatives on Zoom to discuss this with you if you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Yes.
Mike, can we have, that's approximately slightly less than 9 acres of property. How much of the 9 acres are they actually wanting to clear for the use of storage? Are they proposing leaving
the only
buffers?
area that's clear now, and again, I'm so apologetic that the mouse doesn't work well. Right in here is what's clear now. They're going to clear it from here up all the way here, and they'll have their own entrance off of Bluff Road to their site. They cannot go below this line. It's cut that because that line below that is the runway protection zone, or a little bit below that line is.
Okay, well that's also a residential area, so we'll probably need to have a conversation about keeping a vegetated buffer.
Okay.
So that's why I was asking about the area that they want. I noticed in your presentation it was indicating there's a buffer, because you didn't indicate being cleared, the property being cleared all the way to the road, but
yeah.
Definitely need some guidance. I'm happy to negotiate on behalf of the board, but I'd like some parameters on some of the things such as buffering and how much area can be clear cut and things of that nature. The term of the lease. I mean, Mike, do you have any details on how long of a lease we're talking?
5-year lease, and I'm sorry, I should have put more copies of the lease. I apologize. It's a five-year lease. I think there might be some renewals in there if possible. There will be improvements to the property for their use, to store the transformers, the poles, the trucks, you know. And maybe I should let Mr. House speak here, if I could find him. Mr. House, be patient. I'm coming to you right now, sir. I'm going to find you. Let's click on this. And Courtney, I know you're listening. Don't be afraid. I'm looking for Mr. William House. Actually, Mr. House, you should not be muted. You can go ahead and say good morning, sir. Address the board.
Thanks, Michael. Good morning to the board. Thank you for giving us this time today. I can go through the lease, but to answer that first question that was asked, we did plan on leaving a buffer there. There is already a pretty extensive buffer that we wouldn't impact. We looked at previous pictures, and the reason we picked this area is because it was previously cleared out in a very similar way that we would clear it out. And then obviously, like Michael said, we would just improve the surface. So once we left a buffer, I'm assuming it would probably be roughly about 8 acres of usable area, but we plan on bringing on probably about $500,000 to $700,000 worth of site improvements, fence in the entire area, and like Michael said, we would create our own entrance off of Bluff Road right there, and we would be set back far enough. I think right now that tree line, when I walked the site last week, it was probably about, I'd say 10 to 20 feet, and then we would still leave a vegetation buffer there. So we would be at minimum, I would say probably 30 or 40 feet off of that main road, because I would put a setback in so the trucks wouldn't be blocking traffic if there is any traffic there, so they would be able to turn into the site and not stay in the road. As far as the lease goes, the lease would be a 5-year lease. We offered $15,000 a month for the term, plus sales tax, obviously.
So,
wow.
So that's, listening to everything that's going on, I feel like that would bring in a pretty substantial amount of money to the community. We're planning on bringing in, right now we're slated for a head count of 50 contractors to come on site. So that's bringing that many more people to the community. Our company personally, we're subcontracted through Duke Energy. I'm gonna have 4 permanent personnel that are there, and then I would be supervising the site coming in and out. They would be moving there permanently. We do hire locally. We have a local outreach program to try to bring in jobs to the community. And like I said, it would be working with different contractors. We're trying to get this set up before storm season. After meeting with Howard and Michael, I know that was a FEMA staging area. It's a public works staging area. in my opinion, if you can have a utility contractor in your back pocket as well, especially during storm season, I think that's the perfect trifecta to get the power in the community back up and running, especially with the storm magnet that you guys tend to have up there in the Panhandle. It seems like you guys don't ever get a break. So you guys have any other questions as far as the lease or what we would actually be doing in the area?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I just wanted to just point out, there comes the value of commercialism for our airport, right there. $15,000 potentially income a month, a 5-year lease, a private entity coming in and bringing that kind of structure. That's the big picture of the value of our airport, what you're hearing right now. Just wanted to make that comment.
Mike, what is the green line on the map? Is that Bluff Road?
Yes.
But the green line's the edge of the airport property, correct?
Wait, I'm
Of
sorry.
the airport property, right? Yeah. The green line's what he's asking.
Okay, so
Yes,
I'm going to say
that's
that.
that's
I'm
the
going to say
out.
something that's pretty embarrassing. Okay, go ahead, sir. You can maybe say.
I was just going to verify that. That was that's the outer edge of the airport property. I believe there was a drain, not all the way down. There was a drainage ditch that would come in and out. There was a couple culverts along that road, but right there in front of that area that we had, the drainage from what it looked like on the property would already sustain anything that we put in there, especially with that retention area in the, I guess that's on the east side of the property, or the west side of the property there. But yes, that green line is the outer edge of airport property.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
My main concern is to make sure your entrance and exit is not anywhere near a curve. In other words, I'd rather have your entrance and exit off of Bluff Road out where everybody can see trucks coming and going. You understand what I'm saying? So that they don't round the curve and there's a truck trying to get out. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I want to make it safe for the residents to continue to use Bluff Road with your heavy trucks going in and out. So I kind of wanted to know where your entrance and exit was going to be for that property.
Yes, and I did notice that when I was up there walking the property. So and it would actually work out perfect. So where the entrance would go, if you see the red outline, Michael, if you can move that picture down a little bit to see or zoom out so we can see the full outline.
Like that? Some more?
Right, that's perfect. That's perfect right
Perfect.
there. So if you see on that far northern corner, I was going to put the entrance more up towards that way, just because there was already an option to bring power into the property there. I think there was a fire hydrant right there in that area.
Like right here? Oh.
Correct. Yep. As far as the northern corner as possible to get away from that curb. And my idea of an entrance is usually a 30 to 40 foot entrance. Obviously, we would install culverts if needed. We have contractors that can come in and do all that. Same contractors would bring in the power to the property. And like I said, there's a fire hydrant right there in that area. I don't remember exactly where it was on that road, but it was close enough that that we wouldn't have any issues. Previous sites that I've permitted, that was one of the requirements. We needed our construction trailers to be within 400 feet of a fire hydrant. So that was kind of a perfect area where that line, where we drew that line right there.
So how about does this help around
Yep.
here?
Yeah, right there in that area, as far away from that curve as possible, because it was the same hazards as that was just pointed out that I noticed when I was up there. And we would put an entrance, another ingress and egress point on the back of the property as well, just in the event, if there was an influx of people for a storm, you're not crowding one way or the other, and we would still maintain that road right there that Howard uses to get to the back of the property, so we wouldn't have any impact to the equipment that he's storing out there. And then that portion to the north of the property that we want, that's where those berms are already that FEMA has been using. So it'd be no impact on the FEMA storage area.
Does that help, Commissioner? Yeah.
And like I said, that area right there is the area that we would clear out. And looking at previous satellite images, just pulling up on Google Earth. And Michael, I don't know if Steve emailed you that picture or not. I know this portion was cleared out previously. I want to say 2012. It was completely cleared out. Similar fashion to this, although there wasn't a vegetation buffer that we would be leaving. So just picture that cleared out, but with a vegetation buffer all the way around it, fenced in, and we would add in security cameras and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah, most of the commissioners here, Mr. Howard Williams, that they knew, they were here when that was cleared out, so they were fully aware of that, so yeah, they're good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I like the fact that, you know, it's that added, when we have a disaster, we've got that added security of having extra power people here that can get power restored back to our residents. So I mean, that's my discussion on that.
And
Mr. Chairman.
I did my due diligence. I apologize. Just to let you know that I did contact Danny Collins from Duke. So he gave him his thumbs up.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Glad to
So
know that.
he loves
too.
this project
Great. Mr. Chairman, in that area there, isn't there some old concrete riprap and debris that's right on the northwest corner of the picture we're showing there?
Let me see if I could help you.
It seems like that it was just, you know, storage areas for that concrete debris.
If Howard is still on, he might be able to answer that question for you. Howard, you still there?
Yes, sir. No, there's no concrete in there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Neighbors, I'm sure you've been discussed with this with Jingoli Power, and you're okay to share this yard with them?
Yeah, we good. Like you said, he's gonna leave that vegetation berm through there, which will block. In the far back where you see the red at is where our staging area is for blind rock, black dirt, the park equipment. Then up toward the front is basically where FEMA, during a storm or something, to put debris. So, and then they're gonna build their own road too, which during the storm, we got a lot of trucks be coming in that by road, and they'll have their own road also. So we'll be good.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion to approve the lease agreement for the storage laid-on yard with Jingoli Power for the area shown on the map, contingent on Attorney Schuler's review.
Attorney Schuler, did I word that wrong? Should I said that the board should give a nod to the project and allow you to negotiate the lease and you bring it back to approve?
I think that revision would be better, Mike, just because I want to come back to the board with an agreement from the board to have all the details, and then you approve. So at this point, it would just say a motion, revised motion to authorize me to negotiate lease terms and return to the board for further action.
Yeah, I'd apologize, Commissioner Ward. I worded that wrong.
I'll amend my motion for Attorney Schuler to negotiate the contract lease agreement and come back to the board.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I need clarification from Mr. Howard, if I can ask him a question.
Yep.
Mr. Howard, during your presentation, you indicated that at the bottom left-hand of the picture on the screen, which is a cleared out area, you're using that presently to stage materials like lime rock?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so would that cleared out area be co-used by you and the potential lessee, or do you want me to excise out that cleared area for you to continue to have unrestricted storage use?
I think the way we talked when I met with them, it's supposed to leave a berm all the way through there. From our staging area, we can't see them from there. So they're supposed to leave a line of trees through there.
Okay, so between the green space and the cleared out space inside of the red boundary, they're going to leave a green buffer between your storage area and then the area to the right on the bluff road side of the red boundary area?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, all right. I'll probably call you and we'll have some further discussions, have you come by and look at the map, make sure that I don't make some dumb mistake when I draft this.
And Mr. House, I will make sure Attorney Schuler has your number here. I have your card this afternoon, so he may be calling you too, sir.
That was perfect. I was going to make sure of that before we got done.
So,
Hey, y'all looking for workers? Y'all looking for people to work now?
Basically, Ms. House, Commissioner Lockley wants to know, will you advertise when you need local laborers and contractors to do the work, to prepare the site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that'll be with the site improvements as well. We do work with a contractor, but we'll pull from the local community for labor to do the work, and then once the site's approved, I will start looking for permanent personnel is once we get the site approved and the lease is signed and everything's agreed upon, it'll take us 60 to 90 days to get the site up and running, to make sure everything's permitted correctly, get everything delivered, and get the site to where it needs to be. So I usually bring people in 30 to 60 days out so I can get them trained up, and so on and so forth.
So forward me any advertising or anything you want, because I'm sure the commissioners would like it to be on the county's website also when you're looking for, laborers, contractors, whatever you need. Okay?
I can do that. And we always usually put out, we'll put out ads on Indeed or word of mouth. If you know anybody looking for a job, if there's somebody that the board knows is looking for a job, obviously you have my number. Feel free to give my number out to anybody that would be interested.
Okay.
And they can reach out to me, send me a resume, my email address, and everything's on the card. And that usually works out better. If you know somebody, they're already somewhat vetted, and it's less background checks that I have to do, and it's improving the community.
So before we vote, I want to clarify something. So what I'm understanding or hearing is that they're talking about possibly leasing about 7 acres of property.
Well, we did that whole area, but when I say a little less than that is because if I leave a vegetation buffer, obviously that full 8.883 acres we would lease that. But when I say usable space, if I leave a vegetation buffer, I end up having about 7 acres of usable space.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
With that vegetation buffer still within our fence line.
Okay, sounds good. I thought I heard that from what Mr. Neighbors was saying, so I was just trying to clarify it, so make sure we all on the same page is all I was doing.
Right. Right now, our contractors are working out of Carabel, but they service all the way over to Port St. Joe. So this is a centrally located spot because I've looked up between Carabel and Port St. Joe, and that's about an hour drive. So this being centrally located really helps them out.
Good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to be sure we were clearly transparent about any residential impact in that area, and I think we've addressed that relative to the buffer area and it's going to be developed.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously for Attorney Schuler to work out the details of the lease, bring it back to the board for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed that Commissioner Barnes amended her motion, but I never amended my second.
Oh, I'm
so I want
sorry.
to get that on the record. My
Okay.
second was amended also.
All right.
All right, Mr. House, thank you very much. I think Mac is on there. Thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you guys soon.
One more thing, Michael, if you can hear me. I also got DeWitt here. If anybody got any mosquito complaints or problems about mosquitoes, I mean, they've been spraying. They started last week, spraying everywhere. So,
I think he was out. You guys have any questions for DeWitt? You want him to, any complaints about mosquitoes that you want DeWitt to? He's right there with Howard.
Yeah, and I think we're good. I'm glad that they're starting to do it, and I'm glad that we're not so like some of our neighboring counties or other counties in Florida that have been told that they're going to release some genetically modified mosquitoes in their midst. So we're doing good. Thank you all for everything you're doing.
yes, sir. Well,
As if COVID isn't bad enough.
Yes. Okay, so up next is Solid Waste Director, Mr. Fonda Davis. Thank you, Howard.
Fonda, you might be muted, sir.
Okay, good morning, Commissioner.
There you
Good
go.
morning.
Yeah, I have nothing for you this morning.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have one item on my report that involves a proposal by the city of Apalachicola to amend the interlocal agreement. Do we want to deal with that while Mr. Davis is on the line, or wait until my report?
Might as well deal with it now while he's here, because he's not going to be here later.
Well, in my board packet, there is a proposal by the city of Apalachicola to amend the interlocal agreement. As it's presently written, the interlocal agreement that's attached to the ordinance that you approved required each of the two cities to send a city deputy to the scene of whenever there was an animal control call. The city of Carabel has signed the interlocal as is. The city of Apalachicola sent me a request, I guess it would have been last month now that we rolled into May, stating that they would like the ability to modify the interlocal agreement for the purpose of allowing the city to either provide a city police officer or call a sheriff's deputy. I forwarded that request on to the sheriff's department because I didn't want to present that as an option and a request to the board until I'd gotten word back from the sheriff that he in fact was aware of and approved of the change. I spoke to Mr. Travis Wade. He spoke to the sheriff and said everything's good. I've spoken, I believe, with Mr. Davis. He said the sheriff is good with the change as well. So if the board is inclined to agree to this change that's been requested by the city of Appalachia, it would have to be adopted as an amendment to the ordinance because the interlocal agreement was adopted as part of the animal control ordinance that you amended earlier this year. So the request from me to the board is, if you want me to do this, authorize a public hearing, and if you don't want to make the change, then we just take no action until the city to sign the interlocal as it was presented. So at this point, I need board direction on what to do.
So going back in time, the city of Appalachia used to have an animal control officer. It was part of the city. I don't want to rehash everything we talked about before in our public hearing. And I know there was strong push from a lot of people that the county should just be providing this service to everybody in the county. But I would remind residents that live inside a municipality, most of them are paying more to the municipality than they are to the county. So what services are the municipalities really providing if the county's got to foot the bill or do the work for everything the cities want to accomplish? So I'm in favor of keeping it like it is. We've already been through that public hearing, but I'm one of 5.
I agree with the chairman. I mean, we talked about all this and you know, we wanted more money because we wanted to hire a new animal control officer. Mainly the city of Appalachia come back to us and said, you know, can we reduce this until we document how many calls that we get this first year? And of course, we extended that olive branch over to the city of Carabel. And they, as the attorney stated, they signed the interlocal agreement just as it was. You know, it concerns me that I want an officer there. Mr. Davis, you need to chime in on this. I want an officer there because of some of the past experiences that these animal control officers have experienced when they go to a call and they're not a sworn law enforcement officer and they get cussed out, berated. They put one dog in the box and go down the road to get the other one, and people standing around open the box and let the first dog back out. These are things that you want law enforcement there to help control. And I've heard no mention that the city of Carabel was offered the same deal with the sheriff, because that was one of the city of Carabel's main discords with entering into an interlocal agreement, was that they didn't want to provide an officer. And basically the county demanded, no, we have to have a law enforcement officer there. If it's outside of in unincorporated Franklin County, if we wanted an officer, we would have to call the sheriff, because obviously it's not inside a municipality. So I'm in the same opinion of the but my question to Mr. Davis is, if you have a call within a municipality and you don't have a law enforcement officer there, how are you going to handle that?
Well, Commissioner, I agree also. I would love to have an officer there, because like you explained in the past and also today, you shared that when we load animals up and try to deal with the other parts of the case, the dog is released or the cat. So, and it do leads into a confrontation. I actually been involved in it with myself. So I wholeheartedly agree, which we do need an officer there.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, I think a lot of with the municipalities, and this is what I was expressed by the mayor of Carabel, is there's times where they're city officers, there's only one covering the entire city, and so they're short-staffed. And I think the reasoning maybe, I don't want to speak for the city of Apalachicola, but maybe perhaps if the city officer wasn't available, it would give them that option to contact the sheriff's office or the sheriff's officer deputy so that they can have a law enforcement officer present. I think that's what that basically, in a sense, that's what their concern was, is to have that option to be able to call the sheriff's office if the city officer was not available at the moment, I think is what that was about. But
Mr. Davis, to follow up on Commissioner Parrish's question, my question is, so if there is no law enforcement available, will you hold your animal control officer and tell him not to respond until a city officer is available? Is that what will that be the board's policy, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yeah, Mr. Ron, what we would do, we would go out anyway, because it could be just a simple bite case, and we don't want to leave anybody, there waiting and not attended to, not seen about a vicious dog. But I would like to, if we went out and seen that it's going to be a problem there, we'll just pull away, or unless we could call and make sure an officer is there. But I don't think we don't need to answer the call at all. If somebody call in and the officers is busy, well, we still need to show up. And like I said, it could be a vicious dog, or just, some elderly person got a dog, the dog won't let them out the house or something.
So I'm hearing discretion, commissioners.
Yeah.
So.
I'm hearing that if you're going to respond anyway, you probably won't get no law enforcement there, because it's not going to be a requirement. This ordinance is requiring the presence of a law enforcement officer. But if we're going to respond anyway.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The way the ordinance is written, commissioners, is inside both of the cities, the first response will be by a police officer. The police officer will determine whether or not an animal control officer should be called. Once that officer makes that determination and calls out animal control, then the animal control officer determines what enforcement action under the animal control ordinance should take place. Because I think part of what was going on is people are making calls about dogs, but they're not really animal control issues. They're interpersonal relationships and problems going on between people. That's part of the problem.
Well,
that's correct.
And Attorney Schuler, what we also have going on that I think should have some weighing in factor, the boundaries of the municipalities are only so big. Franklin County is about 65 miles wide for unincorporated Franklin County. There's potential they can get a call over here past Bayfront in Appalachia and over on Alligator Point at the same time. The municipalities have a much smaller boundary, and I get that they might be challenged, like all of us are, with the number of people to appropriately respond, but their boundaries are way smaller than ours are, way smaller. So I would think it'd be easier to respond within their city boundaries than it is potentially what the county has and what we're facing, even with the sheriff department involved, because they're tasked with trying to cover it all, not just animal control. Yes.
Haven't we passed that?
Yes, we did.
And it's in effect?
Yes, it is in effect.
Well, what we discussed?
Because they've asked us to reconsider. We're just following the steps, sir.
They had ample enough time during the process. It took us a year to get it done.
Yes, sir.
Now we coming back and going for this. I'm wasting the commission time. We need to move on.
Okay, so do we need an actual motion or a vote on this?
Well,
sir, or was it just
based
for
on what Attorney
discussion?
Schuler said, no action will be that we enforce what we have, what
Okay.
Commissioner Lockley's talking about.
Unless the board wants me to schedule a public hearing for the purpose of amending the interlocal, then I'll just report back. And if you don't want to do that, then I'll just report back that the city of Appalachia needs to sign the interlocal and move on.
Yep.
Okay.
As is.
Okay.
If they don't, they come up with this in the next 3 months. When they talk to somebody, they gonna come up with something else. I mean, we just done what It's time to move on with this stuff.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as attorney just spoke, the way the ordinance is written is that law enforcement will respond and determine if they need a animal control officer to be there. So if law enforcement don't respond, then Fonda's not gonna get the call to go check the call out because law enforcement has not been there to check and see if they need animal control. Do you understand what I'm saying, Fonda?
Yes, sir.
That's what it's written.
That's the way the ordinance is written. Am I stating this correctly, Attorney?
Yes, that's.
So that, what I said earlier doesn't apply because your office will not be called, Fonda, until law, deputy, city, or whoever responds and then calls you and say, we're requesting your assistance at such and such location with a vicious dog or whatever. In other words, you won't get the call directly. Law enforcement will have to respond first, according to what Mr. Schuler's telling us here this morning.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I read from the ordinance just for
Yes.
the record?
Yes. Please.
Okay, it says, paragraph 4, this is your current adopted ordinance. Procedure for animal control complaints within the city limits. The city police department shall first be dispatched to the scene of a complaint about animals. Upon the receipt of a complaint about an animal within the city limits, the Franklin County Animal Control Officer shall not be dispatched to the scene until after a police officer has first made contact at the scene and made a determination that Franklin County Animal Control Officer should be dispatched. Once dispatched, Franklin County shall determine whether a violation of the county animal control ordinance has occurred and what enforcement measures to take, if any. The police officer shall remain at the scene at all relevant times as determined by the Franklin County animal control officer while responding to a complaint about animals. The animal control officer may release the police officer at the scene upon request. The city, Franklin County, and the sheriff's department shall meet to determine the protocol for dispatch of an animal control officer within the city limits. Essentially, the change that was requested was to redefine police officer to include sheriff's deputy, but the interlocal agreement with that substantive language has been circulated out amongst the cities for quite some time before the county adopted the amended ordinance. But having received the request from the city, I didn't think it was appropriate for me not to bring it back to the board. I mean, y'all are the decision makers.
Okay.
But really and truly, when they call for, if they do call Mr. Davis, but Davis them still got, the way it's wrote up, they still got to call the office to go there before they go. So it make no, I mean, if they officer business, they the one who signed the paper. This should have been, I mean,
That's all I had on the animal control issue for the board's
Okay.
consideration.
Okay. Well, nobody's made a motion, so I guess we'll leave it like it is and go on. Mr. Davis, do you have anything else, sir, while you're here with us?
No, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of things on my information, on my report, my
Yes.
information items, if I may.
Okay.
We are to the very last page, the page before the last, Commissioners. Yes, page 10, under S, information items. Item 2, at your last meeting, the board was informed that the last day for the workers participating in the Hurricane Michael program through Career Source would be on April 30th, as there was no additional funding. Once the accounts were balanced, there actually is enough funds for a few more weeks of work. Mr. Fonda Davis, Career Source, and QLM, which is the employment agency, work together to create a list of the current employees and supervisors that will continue to work for the next few weeks. I will ask Mr. Davis to inform the board once the funds are completely expended. So we do have a few dollars to continue with that program. Fonda worked really hard with them to narrow down a list and get a timeline on that. Item 3, if I could, and I know at 10:30 already, this is slightly a not self-promotion, but something I experienced I wanted to share with the board. I wanted to use this opportunity to bring some attention and exposure to the Equal Shot basketball program led by JT Escobar. It's being done out there by what we refer to as the Matchbox. My 6-year-old grandson, Xavier Lewis, participated in his program for the first time this year, and that exposed me to some of the great things this program is providing to the county's youth. What makes this program unique, Commissioners, from other sports programs is the core mission: to develop and launch notable leaders and creative problem solvers in the community. They focus not only on athletic development, but also leadership development and skills acquisition. This program is a great complement to the successful baseball, which I know you see all the trophies that we have in our office and out there in the display, soccer and the football programs already in the county. I've included a handout that provides additional information in the program. Commissioners, it's such a cross-section. All the teams are co-ed. They go from 6 to, I don't know what age. The judge's grandson is on
14,
there.
6 to 14.
6 to 14. Yes. The judge's, Judge Schuler's grandson is on there. State Attorney's son from St. Joe, people from East Point. I'm not sure about Carabel. I didn't see all the teams. It's a wonderful program, Commissioners, that goes beyond athletics. And I know Commissioner Lockley for years has wanted a basketball program with substance, and I think this is it, Commissioner. So that's just me bringing attention to a really good, something to do for our youth here in the county, you know, in addition to all the other sports programs we actually have.
Yeah. Well,
And Fonda, I just want to let you know about that too as Parks and Rec. They're not asking for any money or anything like that. I just wanted to bring attention to that program, that's all.
well,
Good.
and while you're talking about it, since I have been involved in Franklin County basketball now for about a decade, this is one of the things we really needed, not just for when they get older, but also for the younger kids, because shocking as it may seem, every kid doesn't want to play baseball, softball, football, or soccer. Some want to play basketball. And this is not only a good addition, I had attempted, Commissioners, to be one of the coaches for this program during this session. I couldn't meet the time requirement of being there. But my oldest son, Nathan, was one of the coaches for them. And not only did they have this good program in the community, helping these kids, every time they left practice, they left with a goodie bag full of snacks and food and stuff. All the coaches that were involved, they partnered with some people from FSU, and they did some Zoom classes on mental health, mental preparedness, because you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with what you don't know what they're in and what environments they're in. You're there to try to teach them a sport and have a good time and not get sidetracked with any issues. So it's a very holistic approach, and I think it's going to go a long way for not just the future of basketball in Franklin County, but for our community as a whole.
I know.
And since I've been personally involved, I did want to share that this morning as well.
Yeah, they do a good job. And hopefully one day we're gonna see that state sign on either end of the county.
We're getting close, Commissioner. We've been there in the last couple of years, and we're going back, trust me.
That's what I'm waiting on.
Trust me, we're going to get one. Thank you, Michael.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have something for
All
Mr.
right.
Fonda, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman. Sorry, Mr.
No, no.
Davis. Hello, this is Commissioner Ward. I just got, someone reached out to me. I know we just did a lot of work on Brewman Park, which I appreciate greatly. But someone sent me some pictures of the batting cages. They're in need of refurbishing as well. I know that like I said, I know you expended a lot of your budget on the basketball courts, and I appreciate that. I don't know if this is something we can look at maybe for this budget, or we may have to wait. In addition to the fencing, I know we've discussed the fencing before, and they gave us a really large quote that wasn't partially in your budget this year. But if that's maybe something we could look at getting fixed or repaired, looked at in the future, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe
Actually, Commissioner, I like to do it through all of the complexes. The fence throughout the complex, all complexes, is old. So we will be putting that in the budget to do some repairs and replace.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Mr. Davis? We will eventually get through the department director's reports, I promise you. Thank you, Mr. Fonda.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good day.
You too. Up next, Ms. Pam Bernal, Emergency Management Director.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
In my report, I had put that I didn't have any action items, and at that time I didn't because we hadn't received the okay on the houses for the HLMP grant. But after we sent our report in, we received that, which is actually the contract that y'all approved, board approved last board meeting. And the attorney, Michael Schuler, has reviewed it and approved it. I just need for, I don't know if we go back to approve and signing of that contract and notice to proceed so our contract gets started.
Michael, what was the last motion we made?
Was the motion for me to review and recommend, or was it approved subject to the attorney's review? Typically, it's approved subject to the attorney's review, and then once it's approved, they just sign it. No need for further board action. But what I don't remember is
I'm with Attorney Schuler here. I apologize.
It was the last meeting, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes
Here.
as well.
That would have been under Pam's board report.
Yes.
Let's
I mean,
see here.
the
Let's
clerk
see.
submitted the minutes for...
On a motion by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Parrish, to approve awarding of the HLMP bid packet to Florida Retrofit and authorize the board chair to sign the contract upon Attorney Schuler's approval.
Yep.
Right. Then no further actions. That motion passed, correct?
Yes.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. Then no further board actions required.
It carried 4-0, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So it looks like we've already approved it, Ms. Pam. As long as he's reviewed it and approved it, it can be signed.
Okay, I carried it to Michael, so Commissioner Jones, you should have it there.
He does. It's in his folder to sign after the meeting is over.
Okay, also, I got a sheet back from our Sally grant that we signed. Sorry, Commissioner Jones, I apparently missed 2 places that I needed for you to sign on that.
Okay.
So I can get you to sign those, and I can scan that and get that back in.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Anything else, Ms. Pam?
Yeah, the leasing of that property, Michael, am I still going to have use to that block building for my sandbag storage?
As far as I know,
That's not in the property.
yeah, that's below your Howard checked on that, Pam. That's below where you use for the sandbags.
Okay, I couldn't see by the map. I couldn't tell where that block building was. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't giving up my block building for my sandbags.
No, Howard went out there. He met with their on site with them to make sure all that they understood what we use, what they didn't have access to.
Okay, that's all I have then. Thank you.
Anyone else have something for Ms. Pam while she's here? Thank you, Ms. Pam. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, Mr. Eric Lovestrand, Extension Office Director, is he on the line, sir?
Yes, sir,
he
right
is.
there.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. I do not have anything for you this morning.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Eric while he's here?
When are we gonna get the tour of the new facility down there? The board meetings are now open to the public. I mean, I'm ready to take a tour. I'm ready to have a grand opening down there.
Yeah, I need to talk with my boss about that, and we need to start moving that forward and get a date picked.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Eric.
Thank you, guys.
All right. All right, Library Director, Ms. Whitney Roundtree.
I am looking for Whitney. There she is. Where did you go, Whitney? Go ahead. You might be muted. Go ahead. Yeah, you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Good morning.
That's right. Good morning.
Morning.
Well, righty, no action items for you this morning, but a new thing that we got going on, the Friends of the Franklin County Public Library, that's our citizen support organization, they are offering a scholarship in the amount of $1,000. They are looking for someone who wants to continue their education, particularly at a vocational school. They're not necessarily looking for high achieving students. They would like to hear from GED recipients, homeschoolers, or students who had to overcome difficulties and may not have considered applying for a scholarship before. Applications are available from the Franklin County School Guidance Counselor, as well at both libraries in East Point and in Carabel. So we really hope that the people in the community, our students, will take advantage of that. Be great for someone looking for a correctional school. Other than that, we are getting ready for our summer reading program. That's going to kick off June 1st. We're going to have live performances. I've got some people bringing some live animals, so that'll be pretty exciting. We've also got some fun educational programming, and we'll have reading incentives. We've got a new app we're going to launch next month. People can download the app, log their reading, and be entered into drawings for fun prizes. So we're just really preparing and looking forward to that. The pandemic really put a damper on our summer reading last year, so we're hoping to come back better and stronger than ever. Anything for me this morning?
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Roundtree? Discussions? Thank you, Whitney. I think we're good. Thank you for everything you're doing.
I talk so fast.
Yeah. No, you're good. Thank you for everything you're doing. And I know that if they're starting this scholarship this year, it might be a challenge to make sure that the kids are aware, because I know the school's been made aware, but that doesn't mean all the kids know. So
we sent promotional things out to Oyster Radio and to the newspaper, so hopefully the parents will be aware.
Hopefully they'll get some response out of them. Sounds very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, so since we finally made it through the directors, let's take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
And we'll come back and hopefully accomplish the rest of this stuff. Chairman. Yes. County Board of County Commissioners is now back in session. Continue our regular meeting here for today. Up next is Mr. Rex Pennycuff representing East Point Civic Association with a request. Mr. Pennycuff?
Yes, Rex Pennycuff, representative of the East Point Civic Association. Have to apologize today. Miss Lynn Martina, our president, was not able to make it. She had a family situation that arose. First, just start out, we're an organization that started about 20 months ago to represent East Point. We're made up of business owners and community leaders throughout East Point. You know, and we've had some success. We've formed and become a nonprofit and have started doing some organization in East Point, trying to move some things along. Y'all have helped us with applying for a ARPC grant for economic development in East Point, and we also have a USDA grant of a feasibility study of the waterfront in East Point. And just would like to thank y'all for the assistance y'all give us, the tremendous work y'all have done in East Point and helping us. Today we're here to ask for a request. Continually in our meetings, the number one goal that we have is to clean up and protect the East Point 98 waterfront. And with that, one of the largest sections of land in that stretch is owned by an organization. And our group has got together with them. We've reached out to Mr. John, which is the in-house representative for the organization. And we are come today to propose that maybe the county can help with some relief of some of the tipping fees in coordination with the group to get them to clean the land up. And we think that it'll be a great benefit to East Point as well as the county, because we are sort of the corridor to east and west and south to north. So that's our basic proposal today, is to see if there's something that the county can work out so that we can help facilitate the movement of cleaning up the property.
Mr. Pennycuff, has anybody gave a quote on what it would cost to move it or how much material it is?
We have not actually got a quote, definitely not formally. Like I say, it's really the organization reaching out to the board, not the bank or, you know, the other. And we've sort of tried to keep an arm's length transaction going on, because I don't want to be necessarily negotiating a contract between the landowner and the contractor that he gets. We're assuming that it should be local, of course. We have reached out to Fonda. We've talked to a couple of the contractors in the area just to sort of figure out what possibilities is. You know, we've heard up to 30 loads. You know, we hoping that a lot of the structure of the buildings are actually usable concrete that the county can use, hopefully in some other sections, maybe on some roadway. But without actually getting into the details, it's not something today that I can actually tell you. I'm just really looking for the approval, just maybe for the county to reach out to the landowner and see if we can negotiate a deal on behalf of them.
Yep. So I would say, I would think as long as the concrete doesn't have rebar in it, and that we won't know till it was looked at, especially because it's three buildings you're discussing, correct?
It's three buildings and one little shed that's sort of adjacent to one of the buildings. I'm going to say four buildings, but one of them is a very small structure.
Right, the one that's behind everything?
Yep. One of the buildings has been burnt in the past. The other one, the hurricane, has definitely took a huge chunk of it. You know, we really think that it's just a human health and safety issue. It will help with that. We've been in talks with the sheriff's department. They feel that it would be a great asset. They wouldn't have to respond to as many calls of homeless people and vagrants in the area. The fire chief in East Point has communicated that he thinks it's a great idea. They have had to respond to like the one fire. You know, it's a vegetated area. Hopefully we can get them to work on that and address that. Like I say, it's mainly just the focal point. It's sort of the starting of us working with the community owners to get East Point cleaned up a little bit and a little more presentable.
Right, right. And so, Commissioners, the areas he's talking about is, if you're familiar with where Flowers Seafood used to be in East Point, it's between 1st Street and 2nd Street, and on the bay side, and then the other 3 buildings are north of that and a little bit more toward Carabel, but before you get to 2nd Street. One of them got burned down about 7 or 8 months ago, and they think that there was other things going on, people in the house doing things they shouldn't be doing anyway, but it's an attempt to clean it up. So this is what I would ask or say. If the concrete's usable, I think it's something that if the county were to be waiving tipping fees to move the other stuff, the concrete needs to be moved to a place that we can specify so we can use it for other things like riprap or different things we might need at Alligator Point or other areas. And then, it's up to the rest of the board how much they want to discuss waiving fees on the rest of the material. But I do think it would be a benefit, not only to the community of East Point, but to the county to kind of get these rundown, dilapidated buildings kind of cleared off. And my hopes that the owner of the property would then clear off the vegetation and make it presentable property, because they're only going to be able to do with or sell the property if that's what they're wanting to do, if it looks attractive to someone anyway.
Yeah, so. And I've reached out to them. I think they're real interested in getting it to a state that they can keep it maintained.
Yeah.
And like I say, this is sort of a proposal we've had sort of to work with them. We're just sort of trying to get things rolling. And we realize it may be a little loss to the county to start with, but I think we'll generate it back in revenues of land, as well as hopefully less calls from the sheriff department, less calls from the fire department, as well as enhanced value to all the other community around Franklin County.
Mr. Chairman, I first of all, I want to say I appreciate what you all at the East Point Civic Association are doing. The only issue I have is if we waive fees for this particular organization, then what is it going to do for the other organizations that are going to want to come in and do the same? However, that being said, I believe that the good outcome of this and getting rid of those buildings and having a more positive Ford waterfront, I'm very passionate about that. So I think that can, to me, supersede and circumvent about the issue with the waiving the fees, tipping fees.
No.
So I guess we don't need to make a motion, or?
Well, if we do, let me ask you this before we make a motion. I would like for there to be some determination by the property owner for sure of what kind of material is and how much money we're looking at it if this board is talking about waiving any fees whatsoever, even if it's partial waiving.
And Mr. Chairman,
I think we need to know how much we're talking about.
and then maybe we can negotiate with them to say, hey, if we're going to waive the tipping fees, then you need to clean up the vegetation and make it presentable and complete the project, or just not demolish and carry it off.
Yeah.
Finish it up, make it look presentable.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is the property owner a bank right now? Did I understand that?
Because I'm not totally clear on the understanding, but I think that it's owned by a family that basically is in conjunction with a bank. In years past, I don't know, there was a foreclosure, and the attorney may have a understanding of that.
It's, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's been a few years since I've dealt with the bank that was the original owner. I think what's actually happened is FDIC made them spin that property out because they held on to it as a foreclosed property beyond the regulatory period. So I think it's actually been spun out into probably a wholly owned subsidiary, either owned wholly by the bank or perhaps the principals of the bank. I mean, I could look up the details and get that information to the board here shortly, and just give me a minute to look on the property appraiser's website. But the last time I dealt with it a few years ago, that's what had happened.
Yeah, and that's my understanding, is it's a withholding of the family that is in conjunction with the bank. Like again, I really haven't delved into the nitty-gritty of it, because I don't know that I need to be on the inside working it. This is just a proposal that hopefully we can come to a means at the end that helps everybody.
Well, and to clarify for the rest of the commission, I attend most of these East Point Civic Association meetings as a non-voting member. I'm just there listening to what people in East Point are having to say about East Point. This has been a continual discussion almost since they started, not just, among other things, but this has been one of the topics that they've constantly wanted to discuss. How can we facilitate getting this property cleaned up? How can we make East Point look more attractive instead of just being a community that everybody just can't wait to drive through? That, hey, we're a community too. So
we're hoping as an organization too that we can become an organization that people, when they want to develop in East Point, come to first, and hopefully we can weed out some of the problems that y'all have to deal with as a county. If we can shape them in the direction they need to go, hopefully it makes y'all's job easier. And that's sort of where we are. Is we really are looking to see what we can do to help the county help us, as well as other people help us.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that the ARPC they've also have been present at these meetings, and they have also, bless you, have expressed the same, and the residents and the citizens have also expressed these same issues to the ARPC in addition to the East Point Civic Association.
Yeah, and we are finishing up the grant process within the next 2 months. We should have a public hearing later this month. Right. That actually will finish the findings, that will identify some of the economic stuff in East Point. It'll really give us a good head start on where we're going as a community, I think.
Right. You're referring to the competitive Florida grant process?
Yes.
Yes. And the final outcome of that, Commissioners, will be East Point itself will have a developed economic development plan that East Point has had a say-so in. You know what I mean? So just to make sure you're aware of what Mr. Pennycuff is referencing. Yes, sir.
As Commissioner Barnes stated earlier, we have to be careful about setting a precedent, and as the chairman said, we kind of need to know what we're up against. I know the building over here behind the courthouse right here, that the city's eventually going to have to tear down. Well, when we start going down this road, where they going to want free tipping fees too. There's some buildings out in the 2 Mile area, which is the Appalachia waterfront instead of the East Point, but once we set this precedent now, the board needs to understand that if we waive tipping fees without knowing what we're doing, then other people, I feel like, should be entitled to the same right. Most of these buildings are private buildings, not government-owned buildings. So we have to be, there's some other places down on the waterfront right here in Apalachicola that's going to expect the same thing. And Commissioner Barnes stated that. She also stated the good outweighs the bad. I understand, but I'm just making the board aware of whenever it comes over on this side of the bridge, I expect people to be treated the same, whatever we do. So this is not just a one-time deal. There's several buildings over on this side of the river that needs to be tore down too. And when we require or inquire to have that done, they're going to say, well, y'all waive tipping fees for somebody else. I want them, I expect them to be waived for me too. I'm just putting that out there so that we're all on the same page.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
to clarify though, Mr. Pennycuff, when you first started discussing with us today, didn't you actually use the phrase a reduction of tipping fees?
We're willing to whatever. Like I say, we're just facilitating the talks. I'm not specifically asking for one thing. We're just sort of hoping to facilitate the structure that we can get the group talking with the county so that we can move it forward. I mean, anything that I think that we give as an incentive will be an incentive for them to move forward on the progress. Like I say, hopefully at the end, we can make it feasible for them to go ahead and clean the property up, and then the outcome, they benefit, the county benefits, and everyone. I mean, like I say, and again, we're just the requesting party. We're asking y'all what y'all can do to help us facilitate that movement.
Y'all talk to the owners?
Yeah, go ahead.
See, Mr. Chairman.
We have talked to the owner. We've instructed the owner, and I think Mr. Marone has talked to him one time, but it's sort of at a standstill. We didn't want to get too far in until we actually found out what the commission felt about it, so that we wasn't trying to promise or create something that y'all didn't have a blessing of. So we sort of, I think John, the in-house representative, was really in favor of cleaning up, but I think the pendulum right now is that he's waiting to see if we come up with anything that as an incentive to help them. Again, like I say, we provided him with some local contractors that he's pretty interested in talking to, but we're sort of in that circle where the contractors ain't going out doing a bid until the landowner talks to them. The landowner's waiting on us to see if we got anything to negotiate. We're just sort of in a circle. Again, like I say, I would hope that at the end of the day, if we offer them anything, that they think it's a win, that, we are considering them. And then, like I say, I also hope that in the long term, that the benefits that it provides by getting it cleaned actually helps the county with either increased land property and.
Is this a bank?
Again, I know, as the attorney stated, I think it's a withholding of a bank, but I'm not clear of the definition of that.
Mr. Chairman, Mike, when they tore down the old nursing home out here behind the hospital, that concrete was
reused. Yes, I have to double check that. I asked Fonda.
It was ground up or something, right?
Yeah,
they ground it up
and that may be an option for the owner to deal with that contractor that can grind that concrete into little pebbles that people can put on their driveways and all, and not have to pay a tipping fee for it.
Yeah.
Because it's done on site. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I think
may be an option. That
I
would
think
be less
all that's
expensive
on
than paying a tipping fee for heavy concrete and blocks.
Yeah.
Just having it chipped up and used them, give it away or whatever you want to do with it. I mean, there's other uses for it rather than just running across the scales and throwing it into the landfill. I mean, that might be an option too. I mean, I don't know.
I think there's other things. I know that we're talking with Fonda that he actually has some more concrete that he would like to get ground. I've also talked to a couple of other organizations, and I don't necessarily want to put them on the spot, but I think that some of the other organizations could use the riffraff. That it may be a short-term staging for the county where that another organization could get them. I think the biggest thing is just getting approval of having a negotiation process or something other.
Well, why the owner ain't talking to
really, Mr. Noah, it's I think there is some negotiating to be doing with the owner, but I think this is a representative. This proposal has actually come from the East Point Civic Association, not the landowner. I know that they'll be negotiating with the landowners before, but this is the local community based that's really interested in getting it cleaned up, and we're the ones that's requesting this, not the landowner.
But I guess my question is y'all got permission to do it?
He has, again, it won't be necessarily us doing it. He'll be contracting the contractor to do it. So
no, I'm talking about
the landowner has said that he's really interested in getting the project done. I'm not going to tell you that we have permission to go on the property and clean it up. Again, I didn't want to get into that conversation because we feel that local contractors need to be hired, local people need to go to work to do it. We're not trying to necessarily compete with a local contractor. We're just trying to facilitate the conversation.
I ain't against cleaning up. I want to see the whole county clean it, make it better for everything. But I'm gonna tell you just like it is. If they're a bank, I'm not gonna vote for no bank because they got money. They got plenty of money. They'll turn down. They turn down people. And then, but why should it look how would it look for if a bank involved that the county give a bank a break and don't give everybody in the county a break? Because they're coming up again. This in conversation, it's gonna be, you know, this the future. This just the start of the tip of the iceberg. Everybody who did on the house now will want the same. And I really, in my opinion, we ain't got enough information here to even know what we're dealing with.
If I may. So that's exactly where I'm heading, Commissioner Locke. I think from here, I hear what Rex is asking. He's, you know, he's partially negotiating, but he just kind of wants the board to make a decision how we can move forward with this. So I think the first thing we need to do is, number one, get with Fonda, because we need to understand what effect would any of the concrete have on the landfill. You know, because from what I understand, Fonda at some point in the past says he has concrete now he doesn't know what to do with on the landfill. So we need to get that first. Then we need to figure out, like what everybody's saying in the room, is there an alternative use for the concrete, you know, once the building is demolished, you know? And how much of it can we use? How much of it will have to go across the scales? Then, once we determine that, then we know if the board is willing to offer a percentage, 10% of 80-20, you know, whatever kind of waiving percentage the board will be willing to offer for what has to go across the scales. Again, Fonda will have to tell us based on the tonnage how much money the county will be waiving if they do that. I think that's where we are. And now Commissioner Lockley is right. Now it comes where, and so is Mr. Pennicuff. Now Mr. Pennicuff says, okay, let me stand back and now let the owner get involved, or the representative of the owner of the property get involved and start some hard negotiations with the county. I think that's where we are. I mean, if I'm wrong, you guys give me a...
No, I think that's accurate, because what I'm hearing from Mr. Pennicuff is, yeah, they've had the discussion, but they got to a point they realized they can't speak for what's going to happen now.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
That's up to this board.
Yes.
So I think maybe what we need to do is have, and if we have to do it by motion, we will. Attorney Schuler, you are parliamentarian, so you let me know, to basically direct Mr. Davis and yourself to maybe get some quotes from local contractors on what we're actually looking at, what can be done, what can be used. Then the discussion can be had with the entity about what we can possibly do and what it's going to cost.
I'd like to reach out, in any motion you have to, is reach out that staff officially contacts the representative for the owner of the property, and then we start from there. Yes, sir, if the board.
If they do make a,
Yes, sir.
if they do make a motion, I'd like to see in there, hey, y'all come to the county and ask for this. Okay. If we do it, what to stop him from, the owner, from selling that the next day after it cleared off, look good? Is he gonna knock that part off what we done gave him to the people? You know.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So he's saying that basically in the negotiation, if we say we're gonna knock off these tipping fees, and you turn in and sell the property, and we get that money back. I don't know if that's possible, but that's what you're saying.
A little bit far in the weeds on that one.
I think so too.
One more thought is a lot of time a contractor will tear down a building like that and they will keep the concrete and sell it as riprap themselves. Rather than taking it across the scale.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on what the contractor has in mind.
Yes.
And again, if one of the local contractors has a way to grind that concrete down to make a sellable product out of it,
yes,
he may keep the concrete himself, grind it down, turn around and sell
that one out there to the nursing home now, they got a pile of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they grind it. They took that thing in about a week, they had grind it up, they had truckloads going out, and they got a big pile now. I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but
well, I don't either.
I
But
went and looked at it.
sometimes the contractor will actually sell that as riprap, or he may grind it up and sell the ground up material himself. and make additional monies rather than taking it across the scale. So
That's
they may
right.
not even, as far as we know, they may not even need to waive a tipping fee because they may not go across the scale to begin with. We don't know.
Yeah, he said, well, they told me, I asked them, I was being nosy, and I asked them, I said, well, what y'all do with it? He said, well, we can use it for, like underlayer houses or something like that. He said, but when they got that rebarb in it, they can't put it out there. In front of your house because it busts your tires and stuff.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, what I would recommend, I heard what you said earlier. I would prefer that, even Attorney Schuler is involved, myself, when we talk to the representative of the owner, they get the contractor.
Right.
And then they come back to us and say, okay, this is what we think, this is how the project could go forward. How can the county help? And then one of us present that to this board.
Right.
That's what I would recommend to the board. That
That's fine.
the motion is that we contact the representative and we start discussions and negotiations. We do it that way. You hear me,
Chairman.
Mr. Pentecoff? Are we good with that? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
that's fine.
I
Like
didn't mean
say,
to turn
we-
my back to you when I spoke.
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
just here to facilitate the conversation.
Okay.
That's all we're asking. We're not,
Mr.
we're not
Chairman.
demanding anything.
I agree with what Mr. Morone was saying, but I think the county's involvement should probably be even a little more limited at this early juncture. Have Mr. Davis essentially communicate either to the East Point rep or directly to the homeowner what type of information he needs from the county's landfill needs standpoint. And then once Mr. Davis has done that, then let the property owner engage a contractor that can then provide an estimate of quantities, what has rebar, what does not have rebar. Put the burden back on that property owner. 'Cause, I mean, we're not in the business of hiring people to provide estimates for tearing down other people's properties. That's if they want it done, then they need to provide an estimate to the county based on some of the parameters established by Mr. Davis as the administrator of the landfill as to what information he needs so he can give good advice to this board. So that would be my comment in furtherance of what Mr. Morone just said.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I see the county as a facilitator here, not the end-all answer to everybody coming. And I feel like, Rex, you've got an excellent opportunity here to develop a plan of care for us. We've now seen various personalities in this particular project. We've seen the contractor, the banker, the owner of the property or not, your Civic Association. And this, I think, in a partnership arrangement is the way the county should approach all of these kinds of requests so that it's not looking like what we did for one we didn't do for another, but we come together as a partnership in this area. And I would challenge you to bring us back a plan of care.
So do we need to do that by motion, Attorney Schuler, or just by direction?
I think we're just asking for additional information
Okay.
from the owner. I don't necessarily think that rises to the level of board action. I mean, you've received a request, you've provided the response about additional information, and then they'll bring back that additional information.
All right.
Good?
Yeah, so I guess you need to communicate all this to Mr. Davis.
I will.
I should have asked him to stay on the line,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I should have, Commissioner. I apologize for that too. So, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll relay to Mr. Pentecoff where
Yeah.
we are as
Yes.
a project, just so you can report back to the
Like I
Civic
say,
Association.
you let me know we do anything that we can to help y'all.
Great.
We just want to be a facilitator.
Great.
Thank you, Rex.
All right, thank you.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I know we're late for the public hearing, but if you don't mind, Jason Puckett will just here for a few minutes to inform the board of the airport inspection, and then we could go to that public hearing that was scheduled for 11 o'clock, because the sheriff is patiently sitting in the back of the room for that public hearing.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Hey, real quickly, we had our annual airport inspection on Friday, April 23rd, and I'm happy to report everything went as planned. We passed the airport inspection, and I want to publicly thank Centric Aviation for all of their support and help in getting the airport ready. Just want to make you aware that we passed and good to go for another year.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Puckett while he's here?
What y'all doing for jobs out there?
What's that?
I don't think he heard you, Commissioner.
Jason, what y'all doing for jobs out there?
That's a great question. I think that's on the forefront of all of our minds. My job as your airport manager is make that airport as best we can so that when industry does come in and infrastructure does come in, they feel comfortable having an airport at their disposal. As far as jobs are concerned, I think you heard the laydown yard was going to be a job producer at the airport, and I'm happy to report that, that is an airport property that they're going to be using for job creation.
Yeah, but y'all don't have nothing to do with that. I'm talking about what y'all doing. I need a list of what y'all doing.
To be honest with you, Commissioner, I would believe that that's outside of my purview. To create jobs is a difficult task for us all. I think my primary responsibility is make the airport the best I can. But job creation is something that's that's tough to do. Centric Aviation employs quite a bit of local residents. Other than the FBO, there's not really much job creation available right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Hey, hello, Jason. This is Bert Bolt.
Yes, sir.
I want, as a former pilot, I'd like to just be sure that I emphasize my passion for keeping all runways, all approach accesses of those runways viable and functional. That is a highly regarded asset in that airport. And as we begin to see the commercialization beginning to happen in that airport, in some of the areas where we're looking for outreach, the preservation of full utilization of those runways, I think, is almighty. And I want to make sure that I express my concerns and interest to help you in any way to make sure that those runways are approachable and departable and viable at all times.
Thank you so much for that. You and I share a very common ground on that. In the last, since my tenure as your airport manager, I've fought very, very hard to keep 1836, I believe is the airport you're referring, or the runway you're referring to. You keep it open, to keep it maintained, and to keep it funded. Even so much as to meeting with representatives from the DOT, not only in Chipley, but also in Tallahassee, to do what we can to keep it funded. So thank you for your support. Thank you so much.
Mr. Puckett, I know this is kind of past what you were here for today because you were here about the audit. I still have yet to, per our meeting a couple of weeks ago, between us and Centric, I still have yet to see any documentation to support that the board at some point designated 1836 would be only a utility runway, either through your reports or our minutes. I definitely haven't found it in our minutes. I'm also still looking for, per our discussion, a real quote on what it would take to clear the areas of the runway that need to be cleared, where trees have grown up over years. I know this board has expressed support of keeping that runway open, and I don't want to see it by attrition over time be closed because of lack of what we're doing. And I'm also still waiting to hear about a designation of how long of a runway would be needed to accommodate air freight, specifically talking about 1432, I believe is the right number.
Yes, sir. I'll address those hopefully in order here. I've reached out to AvCon with John Collins to help me create a good budget for you for 1836 as far as joint sealant replacement. The good news is 1432 was done not that long ago, so we can use the linear footage to try to come up with a pretty good number for you on that. The brush, that's also been, I'm leaning on John Collins at AvCon on that as well, because they just did some work at local airports with brush removal, and they have a pretty good handle on that. I've not heard back from them yet, but that will be high on my priority list. 1432 to bring in international freight. I started thinking about that a lot, and Commissioner, that is a major undertaking. I mean, you're talking about a massive undertaking in the tens of millions of dollars to have. You got to talk about customs. You got to talk about customs building. I mean, Tallahassee's going through that process right now, and I believe just to have customs for international traffic is in the north of $30 million just for the customs, terminal. So that is a massive undertaking, and I will try my best to get you some good numbers, but I think they're going to be quite astronomical. I agree with you. 1836 is a runway that is, while it is our third runway, and while it is a runway that is not lit, doesn't have any approaches to it. It does serve a purpose. I will tell you that the FDOT, and I made this statement a few years ago, and I will do my best to try to find where in my report what date that was. A few years ago, the FDOT came to us and said that they are going to hold us responsible for maintaining that runway as a other than utility runway. And to do that, we did not have the manpower or the resources or the finances to do that. So the FDOT recommended that we change the allocation of that runway to a utility runway. I wanted to be very clear publicly today that in doing so, it does not affect the economic impact of the airport. It does not affect the usability of that runway. It does not affect who can land on that runway. It was simply a way for us to not have to maintain the brush clearing at a level that we didn't have the infrastructure resources to do so. If the county is wanting to change that and on the master plan moving forward to make it a other than utility runway, I am in 100% agreement. Let's do it. But I'm with you. I think we need to really look at what the numbers are going to be to do it.
Yes, sir. And I brought that up not necessarily to try to spur any other discussions other than the fact that when we're meeting, you said that this board had made a motion to do that, and I can't find that in the record. That's all.
Yes, sir. I will tell you that I might have spoken error on a motion. It might have been just in my report, Commissioner, and I apologize for my terminology and phraseology on that.
It's all good. And as far as the rest goes, we had a pretty long discussion this morning with Senator Osley about our Triumph Fund specifically.
Yes, sir. I was here.
And there are tens of millions of dollars that are set aside for Franklin in that fund. But I can tell you, and the rest of the commission, from talking to our closest representative, Mr. Matt Terry, yesterday on the phone, he said, Commissioner, he said, here's the thing that maybe I think people aren't understanding. Yes, there's a certain amount set aside for each county, but if they bring a good enough project, it can get funded. It doesn't have to be limited at the amount that's set aside for them. It can possibly get funded if the project is deemed to be a good enough project. So anyway, I'm still looking for the numbers. They are what they are. I'm not promising anything, but we don't know without discussion what we can or can't do, because if this board so chooses, it could be something it discusses with Triumph as well about our airport. So you have to have, this is based on the last conversation we had with Mr. Pennicuff. We got to have the information to know what we're even looking at. So that's the only reason I mentioned that.
I completely understand, and I will be at the top of my priority to get those numbers to you as quick as I can.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Mr. Puckett today? All right. Thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if we may, could we skip down and go to the 11 a.m. schedule, which is actually on page, look at me trying to be, thinking we would get there. Page 6 to the very bottom, the public hearing. And this is actually for the parking.
Okay.
And I'll turn it over to Attorney Schuler.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
All right. Commissioners, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance prohibiting the parking or leaving of private motor vehicles, trailers, or fifth wheels on the public right-of-ways on Alligator Point and St. George Island in areas marked no parking, providing areas for parking, providing for mobilization, providing for towing at owner's expense on authorization of county sheriff, providing for penalties, revoking all other ordinances regulating parking on Alligator Point and St. George Island, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is a public hearing that was engendered in response to I think some complaints and things that have happened down at Alligator Point and on St. George Island. The sheriff had approached the board and asked you to consider the potential use of booting or mobilization devices for the purposes of controlling parking, because they were having difficulty getting towing trucks to come in a timely fashion, is the way I recall the conversation going, because Alligator Point and frankly St. George Island are just so far from our closest metropolitan areas and perhaps the mobilization would be a potential effective way of trying to manage people who are parking illegally. So I think that's a fairly accurate summary of how we got here and what we're here to talk about doing. Some of the cleanup that I have provided, well, that's my phrasing, somebody may look at it differently. Some of the changes that I've made in the ordinance, for example, is the old ordinance said that our Director of Administrative Services would also be authorized to authorize towing of vehicles, but that position has been eliminated by the board and no longer exists, so I've removed that from the ordinance. If you may recall, the sheriff and I had a conversation about potentially increasing the fines for parking. And I think the conversation that led from that was that it really, since the fines are not part of a uniform traffic citation system, that the fines did not seem to be particularly effective. So I have removed from the ordinance parking fines. The ordinance before you would regulate parking areas, providing for parking areas, additional parking areas at Alligator Point and St. George Island, and also provide for mobilization of illegally parked vehicles at those two locations. And just for the public knowledge, I have defined Alligator Point to also include Bald Point Road. So it would include both of the areas down at what we commonly refer to as Alligator Point, is less commonly referred to as Bald Point, in my opinion. So that's why I chose to use the phrase Alligator Point, but it would include both of the main stretches down there, which are Bald Point Road all the way to the state park, as well as Alligator Drive. It would also regulate and include parking on St. George Island. I have asked the board to consider providing some additional parking as I guess a first step to try and address these parking issues and to not necessarily move forward on a mobilization today. Asking you to table that is my recommendation while you try to develop an enhanced parking plan. But as instructed, I have presented you with an ordinance that provides for mobilization. I know there's some questions and things that are still going to need to be addressed and answered based on some of the presentation from the clerk this morning. But with that, Mr. Chairman, the usual format is we would open the floor for public comment unless the board members had any specific questions for me before taking public comment. As Mr. Morone has pointed out, the sheriff is waiting patiently in the audience, so I don't know if he wants to speak on that issue first or not, but ready to proceed as the board wishes.
Sheriff, did you want to speak, or?
I mean, I'll wait till the public comment.
Okay.
If there's any
Okay.
questions, I'm here to answer
Okay.
questions. I mean, y'all know how I feel about it.
Yes, sir. Okay. So is there anybody on the line that's wanting to comment?
Okay, Commissioners, I have one caller. So caller, if you would like to speak, to raise your hand, you hit *9 on your phone and *6 to unmute. All other callers are there on smart devices. You just select the raise hand feature and we'll let you speak on the public hearing. Address the board. Again, I call it. Does anybody like to speak on this issue? *9 on your phone raises your hand, and for all others, hit the raise hand device. Asking twice, asking a second time. Well, it's going to ask anybody in the audience. All right, sir. No response.
Okay. So Attorney Schuler, where do we proceed to go from there?
I'm sorry, sir?
Where do we go next after no public comment?
If there's no public comment, then there would be board discussion on any matters that the board wants to address concerning either my recommendation or the ordinance as it's been drafted, or the concerns that the clerk has raised this morning in terms of the receipt and processing of payments.
Well, I will say, I guess I'll start it out. I will say that, yes, there are some things we need to address as a county, and I'm not saying I'm good with people illegally parking. I don't want to be misunderstood, so I'll be very clear about that. I know from riding around last Saturday in the middle of the day, when anybody's going to be at the beach, that's where they'll be, on Alligator Point and both on St. George Island. There is a lot of places where people are parking they shouldn't be. But part of the issue we have as a county that we're going to have to address is there's a lot of areas that we haven't strictly provided areas for parking as this ordinance is trying to label. For instance, in my district on St. George Island, the street ends, the beach access points, there is a makeshift because everybody's just been parking in the right of way, but there's not a designated, well, at 6th Street West on West Gorey, there's 8 spaces, and on 7th Street, we can only squeeze in 5. And if you don't have a clear definition of where they're supposed to park or not park, then when we start booting cars, I think we're gonna have issues because it's gonna seem arbitrary and capricious. And you also have on the island, people now are starting to, and listen, the county right-of-way is the county right-of-way, I understand that. But we're talking about regulating parking. You know, you're having people start to park all the way down the street, not Gorey, but the other side streets, you know, and they're not paying attention. Some of them, where they're blocking somebody's driveway or being in the way, they don't care. They're just wanting to park. One of the issues I've seen in particularly, not as bad on the island as it was on Alligator Point, when it talks about areas marked for no parking, there are a ton of no parking signs, but I question how many of them Franklin County put up. You know, last time I checked, any speed limit signs, any signs for traffic, any signs for parking should be a county issue and a county responsibility. And anybody else that's doing it on their own could be committing a criminal act and trying to act like a government entity. So that needs to stop. So there's a lot of issues we have to address before we get to a point where we can actually move forward trying to, other than what the clerk brought up today, to try to actually boot cars and take care of our parking issues. I realize that, you know, I would love for it to be done today too, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're ready for that yet because we haven't done some of the things we're trying to pass in this ordinance. And I think we're creating a problem for ourselves to do so.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say,
Yeah.
I agree, you know, Sheriff Smith, when he presented this, that was a good idea, and it still is, but again, I think logistically, we didn't take into consideration, as Madam Clerk Maxwell stated, you know, our sheriff's deputy is going to have to be responsible for the boots and carrying around the boots in a U-Haul, or do we have a private company that can do that? Again, if the deputies are required to carry around an iPad with a square so people can pay the fee via credit card, I mean, that adds an added responsibility to our sheriff's deputies who are already extended as they are, just trying to enforce laws. So I think logistically, we need a lot of things hashed out. And as you said, Chairman Jones, the parking, we need to have a clear, defined signage of where public parking is. So I don't know if maybe we could do a public workshop, as I mentioned before. I think that's something that we may need to look at in the future, which I mentioned that when we had this last discussion, especially when it comes to Alligator Point, because of the lack of parking. I know St. George Island has a parking lot, but again, as you said, further on down the beach, people go, and there's questionable where people can park versus the right-of-way. And if people are putting up their own signage, the residents, that is a law violation, and you know that adds to the confusion of people for where they can park and where they can't park.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
With respect to Alligator Point, the current beach access is strained, antiquated, and obviously overused in many improper ways. That's the theme of those finger-like beach accesses that we have at Alligator Point. It's also been learned that much of the parking impropriety at Alligator Point has come from a spillover of excess parking that couldn't occur at Ball Point. Ball Point fills up, and then they halt any more ingress into Ball Point, and then people go back to the Alligator Point area for parking. I had a conversation during Legislative Day with Representative Schoaf, and he welcomes a field trip to go to Ball Point to see if we can do some more enhanced parking as part of the suggestion that Attorney Schuler has given us. And I think that should be in our plan right now. And then let's also remember that great comment we had from our Tourist Development Council just last week last month about 112% inflow of tourists year to date. We need to be considering all of that together.
Yes, sir.
You know, when it comes to parking, either at Alligator Point, I too made a trip to Alligator Point, and most cars I seen was at the marina. That's where I saw the most cars. Every parking area I saw at Alligator Point, which was Saturday before Easter, there were places available for parking. Now, some of the roads that if the parking place is full and they keep going down the road, there's no place for them to turn around. You know where I'm referring to.
Right.
But, you know, that is what it is. People turn around in my driveway at my house all the time. I mean, they pull in, they back out, they go on. I mean, I don't see where that's a problem. Parking in somebody's driveway and preventing them from getting home, that's a whole nother issue. And there's laws already out there, correct, addressing that issue of somebody just pulling in your driveway and going to the beach. I mean, people got to have some sort of discretion. But also, we have to have some sort of discretion too, in my opinion, because our seafood industry is down here. I don't care if it's shrimping, oystering, crabbing. All we have is tourism. And then we're going to invite people here, come in and rent our homes, come in and shop at our little shops, come in and eat at our restaurants, and then we're going to run around and write them up because they're illegally parked. One tire is, you know, on the road or touching the pavement or whatever the case may be. And as the chairman said, that's our fault for not having infrastructure in place. Having said that about infrastructure, this place was not designed to be a tourist destination. The layout of the town of Apalachicola, the layout of the town of City of Carabel, and the layout of St. George Island was not deemed to be, you know, the population swelled from a normal 10,000 person community to 20 or 25,000 people. But we're doing TDC, we're doing the advertising, we're asking these people to come here. And we're also asking these people to spend their money here and enjoy themselves here. But the infrastructure is not in place as far as parking goes, as far as restrooms go. And, you know, how are you going to invite somebody to come here into your community and basically be the economic backbone of Franklin County and then turn around and write them up? I mean, you know, we got to find a common ground. I know the sheriff has discretion. I mean, he has to have discretion on a lot of different issues. But St. George Island to me is different than Alligator Point because there are commercial businesses over there. Alligator Point doesn't have any commercial business other than the marina there with the food truck. And a lot of people tend to gather there after lunch on Saturdays and Sundays, as I saw. You know, they having them a beer and getting them a hot dog or whatever at the food truck. I think that's all great, but they don't have seafood shacks. They don't have restaurants. I mean, so there's a difference in Alligator Point and St. George Island. I'm sorry to say that, but there is. There really is, because there's commercial ventures on St. George Island where there's not commercial ventures on Alligator Point. And how we affect the people that we're bringing in here to shop at our local shops and eat at our local restaurants and visit our commercial establishments, regardless if they're selling T-shirts or they're renting them a kayak or they're guide service or whatever they are. You know, I think we need to be careful. I think we need to have some foresight of how we handle this parking situation. Because they come here and beaches is one thing that draws them here, and we have inadequate parking. I've had people say, well, why don't the county just buy some land on the island to make parking? Well, you can't make parking on one lot. And we all know what one lot costs. And where are we supposed to get the money for this? You're going to need multiple lots to build another big parking area over there. I mean, there's issues here, I agree with the chairman, that need to be worked out. But we also need to handle it with discretion and with kid gloves as far as how we control this. As you were speaking about Ball Point, I rode down Ball Point and there was plenty of parking available before you get to the state park. On this side of the state park, there's a big parking area over on the left, and you walk across the street and there's public access right there. That place wasn't nowhere near filled up, and this was on a Saturday evening, Saturday before Easter. So I mean, maybe I was there at the wrong time. Maybe I wasn't there when it was crowded. I mean, I don't know. I don't live down there, so I really don't know. All I know is what it was when I got there. And I stayed there for a couple hours, rode all the way to the end of Alligator Point Road till you have to turn around at the gate, come back. Like I said, people enjoying themselves there at the marina, and that's all fine. They're outdoors, and you know, and we also have to look at how COVID is affecting this. People are not going to Disney World as much, and they're not going to these big destinations. They're wanting to come to a small town where it's open air, and they're coming, as you referred to, Commissioner Bolt, 112%. But how much more do we advertise? How many more people do we want to come here without the proper infrastructure in place, parking and your restrooms and other things? Just like at Alligator Point, the public access areas in Alligator Point, these dune walkovers on the island don't have no facilities either. There's no restroom available. There's no soda, cold soda. You got to bring your own ice chest, and you best use the restroom before you go. And then if you have to go back home, then you got to go back to your car and get off, and then hopefully somebody don't take your parking place. So it's not just the issues of beach accesses on Alligator Point not having facilities. There's a lot of places we got access to, but there's no facilities there. But the people have to know that when they pull into a dune walkover on the island or a dune walkover on Alligator Point. There are no facilities, so you need to take care of what you need to take care of before you go there. I mean, it's just common sense. And they need to use some of that too. So, you know, I just don't want us to adversely affect our tourism, because that's all we have here right now. That's the only thing that our restaurants and our commercial establishments are surviving on is these tourism and the people we're asking to come here and spend their dollars in our community. And it's having a great effect. Not only it's producing a lot of jobs. I know Commissioner Lockley, for one, always talks about jobs, but without these people renting houses on the island, then you got to hire crews to come in and clean that house every time somebody leaves. And during COVID, you got to disinfect it too. Tourism employs a lot of people here, directly and indirectly. I don't want to see that adversely affected right now, because quite frankly, that's about all we got. You don't work for the government, or you're not involved in tourism, then you're pretty much out of luck. Or our healthcare system. I mean, we have certain niches, but a lot of people don't qualify to fit in that niche. They don't have the medical training, or they're not a deputy or correctional officer, as we talked this morning. And maybe they don't have a high school diploma, so they can't get into that type of work because they've always worked on our bay. I mean, so there's a lot of things to be considered, and I just don't want us to adversarially just basically run the people off, because that's all we got. And those proceeds affect the county's budget and their ad valorem taxes and everything else. So, you know, I want to make sure that we're looking out for that and doing the right thing. And doing things in a hurry is not doing the right thing. What do we do about infrastructure and parking? I don't know. I've been to the island. I've looked at things over there, which is in Commissioner Jones's district. I've been to Alligator Point, looked at things that are in your district. Do I have a magical wand? No, I don't. I wish I did, but I don't. But we have to have a holistic approach to what we're planning on doing to make everything work the best for everybody. And a lot of the parking complaints are from property owners. And that's good if you don't own a commercial establishment and you're not depending on these tourism dollars to make your living or to pay the people that you're employing. But we all, residences as well as commercial people involved in commercial ventures, have to work together for the common good, because we need the job from the commercial aspect, and we need the residences to enjoy their lifestyle too. So, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be looked at and how we move forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I like Commissioner Pear stated, you know, I'm sure we all received the same emails, and I see the residents, the homeowners' plights, especially in Alligator Point with the parking issue. But I also see the logistical standpoint. We can't just go arbitrarily do something that we haven't really thought out and planned out to facilitate it to work correctly. I'm all about let's not get the cart before we get the horse, and try to logistically figure this out to where it can be done the right way instead of just doing it and have all these issues come up.
Well, my thing is, the only right way you can see it's not with so much land down. And if the county gonna buy some land for parking lot, you're gonna have to go up in the air, and you're gonna have accidents when you do that. Some people gonna run off it. But you got to go up in there, you ain't got enough on the ground parking for to buy that kind of land. They ain't gonna sell you that, cause they, but if you go up in there and they got these parking garages, 1-third, 2-third, 3-third, I don't know how high you got to go, but you got to, eventually it's gonna come to that. That's the only way you're gonna be able to do it. So you might have to start with 1 or 2 now, up in there, but you ain't got enough ground. You need one down here, up in there or something. You ain't got no parking where you can't park down here. You have to go down. So that's not only the beaches. You just got to have some parking. You just got to figure it out. What we're gonna do about parking, we got to do something, people. We got to do something, and we got to start somewhere. We can talk about it, keep on talking about it, that ain't helping. That's not helping the issue. We got to move, we got to make a move, we got to move something.
So Attorney Schuler, it was your recommendation that we table this to try to answer some of these questions? Is
Yes,
that
sir,
correct?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with tabling it, but I don't want us to be a discussion we wait 6 more months to talk about.
Yes.
I will say that.
That's right.
We can't do that.
I
Yes,
agree.
sir. Come on. Yeah, we don't need to delay it that far. We have due diligence to do, but we don't need to just completely act like we're not worried about it.
I appreciate y'all taking the time to consider this, and it is, like you said, it's a big issue. It affects all the county, but Alligator Point is different from St. George Island. I get so many complaints about the parking on Alligator Point where we don't that much on St. George Island. And so we don't go looking for parking violations. We got more things to do. But when the complaints come in, we do. We've had somebody every weekend for the last couple of months that is off, go to Alligator Point and work there on the weekends. I know Saturday they towed 6 cars. I don't know how many tickets they wrote. It's every weekend. But I'm not going to continue to do that. And we're going to take complaints as the calls come in instead of roving and looking, because it seems like people down there are really aggravated with what is occurring down there, because there are days it's bumper to bumper down there, then there are days you go down there. You can't determine what a day is going to look like until you get down there and see. Some days are really busy. Some days ball points filled up. Some days it's not. And I think there's places down there that they could expand their parking. The state could do it. So I'm just trying to solve a problem that is pretty much indicative to Alligator Point. I understand the big picture y'all need to look at, but understand too, we don't want to be parking enforcement. That is not what we want to do. And I agree with Commissioner Parrish that we want people to come here, but you know what? We write them a ticket one week, they come back the next week. I mean, they are coming here and they're not going to stop, which is great because we are a tourism-driven economy now, and I agree. But again, I'm not going to put up with them littering, peeing on the side of the road, doing all those things that people come here and do. And the people that live here will not accept it. I'm not going to accept it. And I would hope that maybe as we move forward, y'all can look at Alligator Point kind of separately as some kind of solution to a problem that's taking a lot of our resources for something that, as far as I'm concerned, they can park on the county right away all over. I don't care, because I don't live there. It's really not that unsafe. If they did, people are driving 30 miles an hour, they could park there. But again, it is against the law, and those people a lot of times go down on the beach, which is harder for us to enforce. The residents tell me they're littering, they're camping, they're peeing and using the bathroom right in front of their houses. So I get that too. And so the parking issue leads to other issues, because the more people you have coming there, the more these other things that are going to occur, and which I call the quality of life issues that people, like none of us want that going on around our home. So that's all I'll say, and I appreciate y'all taking a look at this. I know it's not an easy fix. It seems simple, but I know it's not, and y'all are looking at the county as a whole. But again, it gets really crazy down there at times, and it's because of the parking. And a lot of the signs down there, I think, are signs that we have added, the county has added about the parking, because people are like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't park there. Well, even if there's not a sign, you can't park on the right of way, and you can't park in the street regardless. But people, oh, well, I didn't know. So anyway.
Well, people always try to claim ignorance to the law.
Exactly.
But every time I've ever tried to claim it, if I was speeding, they still gave me a ticket.
Exactly.
They didn't care. They didn't care if I was ignorant about it.
Exactly.
But I will say this, to go along with what you're saying. I don't think it should be taken today. This board is okay with any of those other issues you're talking about, because we're definitely not.
No, and I know that.
But before we start booting this car and not this car, I think we have some due diligence to do.
Well, I'm totally good with that, y'all. We're just trying to find a solution that works for Alligator Point, because again, it's definitely day trip traffic that's coming down there and causing the issues. They're not a resource to the county. They don't spend money here. They just come and use the beaches, which I'm great with sharing our beaches. It's that's what we have them for. But I would wish that they would respect the laws here. They park where they want to, and usually the ones that park wherever the ones that disobey the parking laws are usually the ones that are going down there and trashing the beach, using the bathroom, doing those other things that are causing the problems that people are calling about. Yeah. And they want us there right when they call, and we've been trying to provide that service, but I don't see that that's going to maintain. I'm not going to station somebody down there 24 hours a day, or during the day or whatever, just because we don't have the deputies to do it.
On the booting issue, were you going to get a private firm to do that? I mean, that's the way the clerk is saying that it works in other counties. Well, I don't know.
Well, here was the thing. Major Coulter has been working on that issue. He's out sick, or he would be here today. And his idea was to have like a cube where you could scan their credit card, money goes to the county. I don't want the money, or however y'all want to do it, or the wrecker companies. Of course, there's an issue too, because last week we had a wrecker on Saturday, then we didn't have one on Sunday. So it'd still be left up to whoever comes. But here's the thing. And we thought the wrecker, I think if the wreckers were available, that would probably solve our problem. But they're not always available. And if they were roaming, because now they can go, they see a car that's illegally parked, just tow it. We don't have to be there. But they're not roaming. We don't have enough wreckers to satisfy the need that's going on there. So that's why we're looking at another solution. Okay, you stick a boot on somebody's car, they got to call a deputy to get it off, or the wrecker, whomever, and then probably one or two times doing that, they're probably not going to come back and park there, because they know that we have the ability to do it. Where right now, these people know that there may or may not be a wrecker coming. We've scared them with it. We've done it some, but they're not always available. Just like I said, Sunday, Sergeant Anderson was down there. It was his weekend to do it, and Sunday he couldn't get a wrecker. He did a really great job on Saturday, then Sunday he had no wrecker. And if you don't write the citation to the person driving the car, the uniform traffic citation, then it's no good. You can't write it and leave it on the windshield because you didn't see who parked the car and who was driving. You got to either go find them on the beach or wait for them to come back. And most of the time, if you're there and you see somebody illegally parked, you're going to wind up having to go somewhere else. And when you come back, they're probably gone, so you're not going to be able to write them a ticket. And this was just a way to hopefully get the message out to folks that, hey, you can't be doing this, because they're not abiding by the signs. They know where they can park and where they can't. But they just...
So my question was, is the Sheriff's Department going to apply the boots, or the Sheriff's Department going to buy the boots? Or
No,
the
we're
Sheriff's
not.
Department's going to collect the money? How does all that work?
Well, Major Coulter, no, we weren't going to buy the boots. That'd be up to the county. We would collect the revenue. They could scan the card. They could have a queue. They could scan it. And a cube. They could scan the credit card, and then, we would be the ones applying the boots. It's relatively simple.
So you would, like you're saying, you're not going to be able to continually go down there, but if you got a load of boots, then you'd have to be there to apply them and take them off.
That's correct. Well, what I'm saying now is we have somebody stationed there for the weekend. They don't leave Alligator Point. They are there all day, Saturday and Sunday, just to handle parking issues, because that's what it's come down to.
So how much do these boots cost?
$200 to $500 is what Major Coulter has told me.
Each?
Per boot, yes.
Okay. Now, is there a civic organization in Alligator Point that's willing to help buy these boots?
We'll find out.
There is.
Just for the sake of discussion.
I don't know if they're willing, but there's this organization.
Because it's not in our budget, and it's not in the sheriff's budget.
Nope, not in mine.
You know, I know we're not there and we're not going to pass this thing today, but these are things information that we got to have and ideas that I'm thinking.
Sure.
And I didn't know if the sheriff was going to get a private company to apply boots, which is what the clerk has found out, or if he was going to apply the boots, and then you got to have somebody there to take the boots off, so you can't just go down there and apply a boot. And another question is when they tow these people's car, where do they tow them to?
They've been towing them to the
fire department.
Okay, so they're not leaving Alligator Point.
No, they're towing them. Correct.
Walk 10 miles to get back to the car. I mean, I don't know. I'm just
that's what they've been doing, and it's effective when the wreckers are available. If the wreckers were readily available and were roaming and towing, we wouldn't need boots. And I think that would certainly slow it down. But when they're not available, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever's going on.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It's Alligator Point specific in this conversation. Is it possible to simply customize the ordinance right now for Alligator Point only to have booting there? It's uniquely geographically unique. We've heard testimony for a couple of years regarding the same thing. And customize the ordinance right now to take care of the Alligator Point concern. Perhaps maybe, is there such a thing as a temporary ordinance to test this thing at Alligator Point specifically? That would be my second point. My third point is, not to dilute my first two, but is it possible to specifically contract towing companies from other surrounding areas to specifically come to Alligator Point? They may come from Tallahassee or a surrounding area to be sure that we have that resource. What are your thoughts on those 3 points?
I think Mr. Chairman, I think we need to know who's going to buy these boots.
Oh, well, I think
that's that, and you can't tell us that today. So I don't see it moving forward here today. As far as a ordinance for Alligator Point and a separate one for St. George Island, I would be in favor of that.
You would or would not?
I would.
You would?
Because you don't have commercial establishments down
sure,
there.
Yeah, it's all
we do
unique.
On St. George. But let me tell you this. I've had people in commercial establishments calling me too about parking. I'm saying, man, you really want me to throw all these people off the island and this is how you're making your living?
Yeah,
Come on
careful.
now. I mean,
sure.
Can't have it both ways. And his direction was the same as Commissioner Lockwood's. Let's build a 5-story parking garage.
I hear you, yeah.
As soon as you come on the island on the property that the county bought over on the left when you come off the bridge. I'm saying, man, do you know that they'd run me and you both out of this county?
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Sure.
It's the aesthetics of
Sure.
that.
Yeah, of course.
People
Oh, yeah,
that
you
live
don't
on
want
the
to do
island
that.
that move there for this glorious sunbathing,
Yeah.
heaven. And the first thing you see when you come on the island is a 5-story parking
Oh,
garage.
no, we don't want that.
I said, best thing you can do is to be at this meeting today or on Zoom, and you bring that up, because I'm not bringing it up. I mean, yeah, he wants the business, but parking is an issue. So the residents are not the only ones complaining. I've heard from commercial ventures too, but when you stop and look at it, and you stop and think about it, you run all these people off, and now different place closes, they're out of business because we don't have tourism no more.
Yeah, well.
Then we're gonna get banned for that too. So it's we need to slow down and make sure we know what we're doing what we think is right as a board. Because whatever you do is not gonna be right with everybody, I can tell you.
Sure.
You ought to already know that as being a commissioner.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, it's not gonna please everybody, just as the sheriff's not gonna please everybody. He tries, and we all try. But we have to look at the big picture. We have to look at our roles and responsibilities. And we will do the best we can to do what we feel is right to address the problem. And that's what we all got to come together and do.
Well, just to follow up on what the clerk said earlier, a lot of the big cities have their own parking enforcement. I don't want to do parking. I'd love to be out of the parking business. Y'all can have it. Hire a parking enforcement person to do it. Give them a truck with boots and ticket books and let them have it. I don't want it, but it falls upon me to do it. And, you know, I don't know. There probably is a lot of revenue to be made in parking the way it is right now, because a lot of people know. I mean, if you get your driver's license, you know where you can park and where you can't. I mean, come on. We all do. We know where we can, even if there's not a sign there. But people do not follow that, and they just, you know, try to get by. And I know this issue's not going to be resolved today, because it is a big issue, and there's parking all over. But I think sometimes we're going to have to take each geographical area in the county and maybe look at it a little differently. But just please understand, I don't want to be in the parking business, and you know, who knows? It might be a job that could fund itself if there was a parking enforcement official.
You know, Mr. Chairman, if there was a way to recoup the county's money from the county buying boots, but I'm not sure there is under Florida statutes. I don't know where the money goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where.
So
if it was a $150 fine, where would that money go? I don't know. I mean, that's for the clerk.
Either.
You know, I don't know.
So it's hard to make a decision on what the statute says about booting and who gets the money. Or part of it goes to the court, and part of it goes here, part of it goes there, and the county gets this much.
Yeah.
It takes 20 years to pay for the boots, $500 a boot. I mean, how does it all work? I don't know.
Could we do an immediate fix and consider contracting tow companies right now to come and do the roaming towing specifically, and do that as a fix right now?
You could do that, but you can't answer whether they're wanting to come, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, they're already able to run. We fixed that, I think, a while back. They can already roam. It's just, you know, alligator points along the way. We've called record companies in Wakulla. They don't want to come over. I mean, you know, and one day there's nothing going on and they're good, and another day they got other stuff going on. Or, you know, we only have 2 here, and they're, you know, owner operated. It's not like they got a bunch of employees and a bunch of trucks, and so they may have the weekend off and just have somebody to take call, and they're not out looking for other stuff. But, you know, that's just the way it is. So, but anyway, if y'all don't have anything else for me, I just wanted to, you know, let you know I don't want to be in the parking business.
We don't have. They can say what you want, but
right.
You can say what you want. But sooner or later, you got to do something. You got to do something about the parking. You got to do something about the toilets. You got to put in parking lots. You got to put in the bathroom. Instead of putting it on the internet, come to Franklin County. Come to Franklin County. That's all that TVC they advertising every day. The people come in, can't use the bathroom. They can't eat. They can't park. What you gonna do? I mean, you got to do something. That's where the money come from. What's the where the money? If you ain't got the money, don't invite them here.
Yeah, and you know that.
Stop.
And that's a great point, because if you notice the weekend traffic, or really even Monday through Friday, there is so much traffic coming through Franklin County. I mean, as y'all know, I mean, Jessica's husband, Lieutenant Ward, he's my traffic guy. I have one person assigned full-time to traffic. I could have 5 people doing traffic all day long and still not address all the complaints. The number 1 and 2 complaints we get, drugs and traffic, and I don't know which one's above the other. So many traffic complaints, and we have to, you know, respond to them. And of course, if I'm out writing parking tickets, and I can't be stopping the speeders and the drunk drivers and the reckless people that are coming through Franklin County, because they're driving crazy, they're doing all these things, and that's where those resources need to be going instead of being parking meter maids. So. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion to table this item, this ordinance, but I would like to schedule a public workshop to address all of these issues potentially, so we can come up and formulate a plan as we move forward.
I'd like to second that with a comment to amend it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Go ahead with your comments, sir.
I'd just like to ask our county coordinator to do a telephone survey of the area tow companies to see if they specifically would be interested in coming to Franklin County on our weekends.
Good.
By contract. Would that be appropriate?
The towing company.
The towing companies,
Okay.
yeah. Give us a register roster of who says yes and no.
4 Alligator Point.
Oh, and Alligator's Point specifically, yes, thank you.
I'll amend my motion, original motion, to reflect Commissioner Bolt's second.
Thank you.
Did you amend your second, sir? I know you asked for it.
Yes, sir.
I'll go up as far as Leon, sir. We'll
Yeah,
call it.
Leon, and yeah,
We'll call it.
we're talking about a 60-mile radius, something that's commutable for them.
And of course, I'd like to obviously get the public workshop as quickly as possible. We're coming on the summer season, getting a lot of visitors to our area. I know the legislative session, they passed a law that states that for any public hearing, we can now advertise online, and that's considered in addition to the time frame. So whenever we can do that.
Okay, any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, so we're looking at 12:15. I have Mr. Walker, he would take 5 minutes. Mr. Coleman, so I don't know what your schedule is, if the board breaks for lunch, or you prefer to go, how long is your presentation?
15, 20 minutes.
So do you want to try and tackle Mr. Walker? His is just about recognizing, I think it's Hospital Employees Week. Him, I can open up right now, and then maybe we take Mr. Coleman, we break for lunch. Because we have some other people holding, and I would like to give him an idea when we would do that, sir.
Yeah, I think we can possibly get done with these two items, maybe by 12:30 break and come back at 1:30.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. Everybody's
Okay?
good?
Y'all good with that? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Walker, you have the floor. I'll let you go while Mr. Coleman gets ready and he approaches the podium.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. David Walker, CEO, Georgia Williams Memorial Hospital. Next week is National Hospital Week, as well as Nurses Week is coming up as well. And so behind me, I had some staff in earlier, but they kind of left because of other duties. I want to recognize our staff for their diligent, hard work, doing, especially this past year with COVID-19. Behind me, I have staff working in various departments, and we just want to recognize them and appreciate them for what they're doing. Also, Weems have been in existence since for 62 years. We have an employee here called Lily Mills, who have been here 49 years, Gene Roberts, 43 years, Mary Brown, to my left, 40 years, Betty Gate, 37 years, and Glenda Wilson, over to the end there, 35 years. So these employees have been here, through the tough times, and the good times of this hospital. But I want to just come to you all and just recognize our employees, for working diligently for the residents and visitors in Franklin County. Thank you. Really appreciate your support of the hospital.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to thank y'all for your service y'all done.
I kind of lost. Tell Miss Mary, hey, Courtney, would you bring back up the hospital, please? Hey, Miss Mary, I just want to say hey.
I want to thank y'all for your service.
And I agree. Thank you, guys. I've worked in the past with a bunch of you folks. Y'all are a fine group of people, and thank y'all for your dedication to Weems and our community. Thank you.
We appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your support. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, up next, Mr. Jim Coleman, Alliant.
Thank you, Commissioner
Yes,
Jones.
sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to, I almost said this afternoon, to be here and talk to you guys. What I want to do is I promised when we got the agreement to partner with Weems to work on improvement of the hospital that we'd come back and give some regular reports so you'd sort of keep track with what's going. I know Commissioner Bolt's been attending some of our board meetings, so he's staying in sort of the loop with us, which I think is great because he can come back and communicate to you what he's seeing and hearing. But today I just want to I've got a few slides I'll go through in the interest of time. I'll go not super fast, but I'll go through them fairly quickly. But feel free to stop me at any time and ask questions. So next slide, Michael. We started in November of 2020, And that was during a pandemic, as we mentioned, so you're dealing with all those issues and coming in with a lot of our team members over 60 days for November, December through the holiday period. We had a lot of different team members come in and we worked on an action plan of what we thought were the biggest opportunities, then prioritize those opportunities to attack, sort of go through them. And we've been working on sort of 4 key categories: finance and operations, quality, people, and growth. And so, next slide. So first, before I talk about the results, and so keep in mind, we started and we used basically 2 months to get our action plan together. And then really started in January, started tackling these things. So what I'm going to show you in the following slides are the things that we've accomplished, which I think is pretty significant in a short period of time. But first off, thank the entire team at Weems, just as you guys saw some of them there. One of the reasons I got into rural healthcare from a small community, and I love the fact that in small rural hospitals you find more commonly these long-term employees that have been with you 20, 30, 40 years. You know, it's impressive how they stick with the organization no matter what. But the whole team there, from David and his leadership team all the way down for department leaders, everybody's been very receptive, and they've pitched in with an attitude of they want to make Weems better. And so it's actually been an enjoyable engagement so far, and we made a lot of progress. Next slide. In finance and operations, just quickly, the CARES Act reporting. Everybody know we've gotten CARES Act money from the government. It's not just free money you put in your pocket and spend however you want to. It's accountable based on certain guidance by the act that was passed on what you can use it for and how it's used. So there's a portal open for registration. We got logged into that, but also we haven't entered any data yet. So it's still pending, but we're ready for when we're able to enter the data to enter it. We've taken all the commercial insurance contracts and we're having someone review. They're being reviewed as we speak, and a payer grid put together. That's important, where we see if there's opportunity to renegotiate some contracts to get better payments for Weems. And then the payer grid's important, so you can pull, when you have a commercial payer come in and visit Weems for either outpatient or inpatient, you can pull that record and see if you're being paid per your contract. You can check and make sure they're paying you correctly. 340B is probably one of the bigger things. We got that established and registered. We think that's going to be a potential opportunity for at least 15 to 25,000 a month of income to the facility. We're also investigating, and Commissioner Bolton and I were talking about it earlier this morning, about looking at the opportunity of putting a retail pharmacy in the Carabel Clinic. Normally, we would say that's really not a profitable venture, but the fact that there's so few pharmacies in Franklin County, especially down that direction, we think it may be worth evaluating. So we're looking at doing some performance to see if that really makes sense. We've also got a contract with the Walmart pharmacy already, and any independent pharmacies that want to participate in the program with us, we'll get them enrolled also. Pricing transparency is a requirement by the government that went into effect January 1st, that you post your pricing structure on your website for all the public to see. We're working with TrueBridge, which is our revenue cycle partner at Weems, to look at taking the initial 300 procedure list and working with Bill, the CFO there, to upload that on the facility's webpage, so we'll be compliant. Next slide. MORs, that's an acronym for monthly operating review. We've been holding monthly operating reviews with the entire management team. During the month of April, we expanded it to not just do financial, quality, and people review, but also we've got the revenue cycle dashboard now populated, so we can sort of see where we're at on performance-wise on the revenue cycle. More to come on that, so we just got it populated for this past month, and then we'll see how it trends going forward. FERS reporting is it's an acronym for Florida Hospital Uniform Reporting System. We filed and completed that on 1/27/21, then filed an update with the April audit when it was released and approved by the board. So that's been accomplished. Charge master review. Had an entire team come in from Blue. They did the charge master review this past month. We expect to have the results of that study in May. And the reason that's important is you're making sure your pricing strategies are correct for the hospital. And from what we could tell, it's been many years since the charge master has been reviewed. So we think there'll be some opportunity there, and we'll know more when we get the results. The real work on that happens when we get the charge master results back. And then we have to work with each individual hospital department director to implement the changes and how they do their charges. We're working with 3 different vendors on Medicaid eligibility. These are 3 vendors that when someone comes into our ED, comes into the hospital, outpatient basis, and they don't have any insurance coverage, these 3 companies, technology-wise, can access and see if they qualify for any program whatsoever. So it's just a way to make sure if they're qualified for some type of coverage by whatever program, that we can get that coverage for them and automatically get them enrolled. We've implemented this with Cadre and CRS, all 3 of those in different facilities around our network, and had great results with it. And it's a great service to the patients too. They find that they have coverage they might not have known that they were could have qualified for. Cost report has been completed and filed at the end of March. We also did an ED leveling review and completed that, and actions are being taken to improve that. That's going to be worth about $126,000 annually, just the changes doing that. And then so the next step things on finance and operations, we're going to start looking at upfront collections review processes, an action plan for the year-end audit results. The year-end audit had a lot of recommendations and findings, so we've added that to our action plan so we make sure our audit looks better next year. Still cleaning up financial reporting. We're getting really close to that. And cleanup just means making sure everything's in the right bucket and everything's recorded correctly so we can see how we trend going forward. Annual coding audit will be coming up, and that'll be important. And then now that we have the revenue cycle dashboard, is really monitoring the performance there and make sure we're collecting as promptly as possible with all of our services. On the clinical and quality side, CMS readiness survey, we've done that with Paula, who's our VP of Clinical Services. She's working with Courtney, the CNO there, and they're developing action plan for corrections. So we'll be, sort of our goal is always be ready for a survey, whether it's state or CMS at any time, so you can, if they walk in, you're ready and you don't get caught flat-footed, which is a pretty common thing every hospital wants to do, is be prepared. Data collected for quality benchmarking, so we've shared some quality benchmarking data for small hospitals. Now we've collected the data and the quality reporting process is being put into place, and that's being shared with the board. There's an example of where we are. We went back and we started in November. We went back and got the 3rd quarter of last year for October, November, December, and then in the 4th quarter, and starting to put that together, refining that still. Some of that you'll see NDs where there's no data that will populate as we go forward, and we'll be able to keep track of some of our basic quality measures. Next slide. On the people side, we've also, Weems was on the Florida pool for workers' comp, which is probably the most expensive option you can get. And so we put that out for bid, and kudos to Jenny, who worked with us. I think that was already on her to-do list when we came on board, and we worked with her on that project and came in with a low-cost vendor that's going to save about $126,000 a year annually. We also did a market salary survey. Staffing's a real issue, not only at Weems, but at every small rural hospital. Finding people locally that can take the skilled jobs is an issue. We were way behind at Weems, so we did a salary analysis to find out how far behind we were, and we couldn't afford to do it all at one time. So we then went back and put a phased approach in on what we wanted to do, what jobs where we thought were the most behind, that were most important to serve patients. And we have a plan that we put into place, and the board's actually passed phase 1 of our recommendation, which was mostly for the nurses, respiratory therapists, the people that have been key during COVID. And we'll still continue rolling out those increases to get people up to market. in Perry at Doctors Memorial, we just went through a very similar process with them, and they're facing the same thing, and they're going through the same process that we're going through with Weems. Press Ganey, Employee Engagement Survey. You guys joined just in time to have that done. We had the results shared last week. I think it was last Thursday or whatever the 29th was. I think it was Thursday. And so now we'll take that results for each individual hospital, and we'll look for trends and patterns of concerns with employees. And then we'll try to look at some ways that we can put action plans in place to counter some of those or address some of those issues that the employees have. And with growth, a lot of these things are strategic. So in a public meeting, I don't want to talk about all the strategies we have, so I'm just sort of keeping it high level. And so David and I have regular calls, and we talk through all these categories that we're just talking through, but we really focus on what programs do we think that the community needs, what do we think the community could support. And so we're looking at a lot of different strategies. We've now put in place, the Alliant team has put in place a monthly phone call that'll happen this Friday with Lauren Clerk, who's the outreach VP for Tallahassee Memorial. So our whole team has a call with her once a month just to touch base on what each hospital is doing, what each hospital needs, and how Tallahassee can help. So that's really helping with that. Just to give you an example, Duffy, the chairman of the board, he requested early on, probably as we were just getting on board there, he said, I'd like to have a dashboard, for how the hospital is doing, so we can just see a one-pager on how it's doing. So he was speaking our language, because we usually put these in place when we come into a facility. So we put together one that's got financial, operating indicators, and then quality and satisfaction indicators. And then at the bottom, we just some of the key projects we're working on at that time for that month. We sort of flag those and discuss those so that that board gets an update on that. And you'll see we're tracking the county subsidy. You say, well, what's that on there for? Is because we want to get to the point where that stays very stable and goes down. That's what our goal is. We want to have more of that money go to the trust fund for a new facility instead of being used for operations. So hopefully, but that'll help us be a gauge that we can track that. But overall, got a good list of, and you'll notice a good trend there. I just want to point out operating indicators is the top blue line as you look at it now. October, November, December, January, February, March. Look at that. In November, we had a lot of admissions, but the admission trend has been up. When we first came in, the average daily census was like 1.5. And so we're having an increase in admissions. You'll notice that sort of follows when Dr. Newton came on board. And so his impact is starting to ramp up, and we're getting more activity at the hospital. He came on board in the holiday time during COVID, so he was sort of slow to ramp up, which is not unusual. But I think he's really getting busier now, and the word of mouth is that he is a fine physician. I think he's really making a big impact in the community. And so, I think as he gets busier, hopefully this time a year from today, we'll be maybe looking at another physician to come in and be a partner to Dr. Newton. So, next slide. Project tracking. This is just, I don't expect you to look at this or even try to read it. I just wanted to show you that we do have an action plan. This is only 30 lines of a 60-plus line action plan. We use this to go through, and it has what the item is, who owns it at the hospital, who owns it from the Alliant team, what the due dates are, and then if you scroll to the right, it'll show, keep on going, there you go, red, yellow, and green if it's on schedule or off schedule. And we talk about these on our regular calls with the team at Weems. So it sort of keeps us moving forward. Just wanted to show you that when we talk about the action plan. We really do have it, and that's just the first page of it. Okay, next slide. Unzoom. There you go. So in the first 6 months, the 340B program we think will be $200,000 annually. The ED leveling project is $136,000 annually. The decreased workers' comp will be at least $126,000 less annually. We bought a piece of equipment that we saved $27,000 on. It's a one-time savings, but did save that just through using our group purchasing organization. So in 6 months, we found $489,000 worth of value. So we're really happy with that. We still haven't even looked at labor productivity management and all those other to come things. So we'll think there will be more opportunity as we get into the next phase. Next slide. So in summary, throughout the initial work we presented by Alliant and the Weems team, we've had $489,000 of savings, which is 3.7 times what our annual fees are. And so you're getting, we want to make sure that we help you deliver better, higher quality healthcare services, but also you get a value for your partnership with us. And so I think we're starting to show that. I also want to focus on, don't forget Tallahassee partnered with us when we came in and agreed to start working with Weems. And just to give you an update on what they're doing, they employ Dr. Newton. They lease space from the hospital and the Carabel Clinic, and where he runs one of his clinics 3 days a week. They're getting ready to roll out a promotional campaign for him to get his name out in the community. So you'll probably be seeing that in the next month or so, and TMH is helping coordinate that. We did a credentialing delegation agreement, which just helps us when we use telemedicine physicians or anything else. It just speeds up the delegation and credentialing process by working with TMH. Hillogix is a wound care company. We're sort of working with them and Tallahassee Memorial to evaluate that program. Courtney, who's the chief nursing officer, she submitted a profile of all the services we can do and what kind of patients we can handle at Weems to the case management group at TMH, so that when they have people that qualify for skilled nursing or long-term care beds or swing beds, they can be referred out to the hospital if they're from Franklin County and from this community. So that'll help our swing bed program grow. And then they're going to include her in their nursing leadership day that'll come up in May. So they're giving her some educational opportunities and some peer networking with it's good for her. And then we're also working on some emergency behavioral health via telemedicine with Tallahassee Memorial. That sometimes you get a patient ED that's more of a behavioral issue, and they're really hard to handle, and you don't know what to do with them, and typically you can't find anybody find anybody to take them. You know, there's no disposition for that patient. So at least we'll be able to get some behavioral health counseling from telemedicine from Tallahassee, and then with their partnership with the Appalachia centers out there, can hopefully find a place to place those patients where they get the proper care. So good things. And as we said, coming up, Charge Master, Medicaid eligibility, revenue cycle, and coding audits probably our big things for our next opportunity areas. So last slide is just, we've been working with the Weems team. We're all working together. Our focus is to expand and improve the healthcare services that are offered in Franklin County. And I left out emergency medical services when I did this, and I thought about Louis. You got an outstanding EMS director, and so he's been very valuable. We partnered also, one of the things that's not current, but we've been doing it, that I wanted to point out, we're partnering with Tallahassee Memorial, and Dr. Redfield, who's the ED director there, is serving as the regional medical director for a lot of the counties that have EMS services that have hospitals we're working in. We think that that'll eventually get us to the point in time in the future where we can maybe start standardizing on trucks, standardizing on equipment in the trucks, standardizing on protocols and procedures, which will just make everything work much better. So he's really gung-ho about that. He's co-medical director of the ED at Tallahassee Memorial, and I'm having regular calls with him also on a pretty regular basis, and also Dr. Watson and Ryan Smith, who's their chief nursing officer, chief clinical officer. So a lot of good things going on. Hope you guys are happy with it. I hope you're hearing good things. We're not perfect. If you hear bad things, let us know or let David know, and we'll always dig into them and address them, because our goal is to, hopefully in another year or so, not only be looking at other physicians come to the community, but looking at potentially a renovation or replacement plan for the facility. All right. Any questions for me, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Coleman, thank you for being here today and being patient. Just real quick, as I spoke to you before in the past, when you and I met, my biggest concern and my biggest request was obviously these people that were presented before the meeting, 40 plus years, 30 years there, you know, they deserve compensation. I know a lot of them have gotten paid, you know, they haven't gotten raises in many years. And I saw in your presentation that you are trying to facilitate that. So I just want to reiterate that and bring that up. In addition to benefits for the employees out there, they are devoted and they've worked there for a long time. I think they're deserving of all that. They do a good job.
Absolutely. We found, you know, when we did this salary survey, we found some, you know, pretty big gaps, and we shared them with the board, and they all had the same opinion as you did. These, you know, this is wrong. You know, we got to get these corrected. So we've corrected all those. Some of the ones that probably went without pay raises in a number of years, you know, and maybe even sort of accidentally, you know, not on purpose. And so that's been corrected. And I think we're just, you know, sort of just really digging into what we can find. And I think we'll, you know, I won't say that we'll be able to break even on our own, but I hope that we were really close to that, you know, when we're all said and done a year or so into this. And the people, you know, you're working healthcare. And so, you know, that's just a building. If there's nobody there inside, you know, the people that's your biggest asset. Sure. And so taking care of your people make the big difference. And when they're happy and you're taking care of them, they're going to take care of the patients well. And then we actually last night we have a gentleman who works with us on insurance and benefits with Alliant, and he actually came. He happened to be here last night, and we had dinner together and talked a lot about it last night. But he's actually working with Jenny today, and they're talking about what could we do if we looked at a 401k program. You know, maybe Weems can't, you know, subsidize it at this point in time, but at least we can set it up so employees, if they want to put their own money into it and start a retirement savings account, and then as time goes forward, hopefully get to the point where, you know, Weems could do a match at some point in time, possibly. So they're over there looking at those kind of things, but that's part of the people section. I haven't looked at the detail on the Press-Ganey survey, but I would suspect that's probably going to be one of the big issues. But I think we're hopefully a little bit ahead of it, is looking at what options are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Keep up the good work for them.
Thank you.
Good so far, that's for sure. Anyone have any questions?
If not, I will say, Mr. Chairman, at one of the breaks, Mr. Coleman and I talked, he already started taking notes for the discussion the board had this morning about using Triumph funds for the addition, how we can do it. So at some point he's going to send me a proposal I can take to the meeting. I will run it by the board, of course.
I think it's a good idea. I was making notes, wonder if healthcare would qualify, and then then you start talking about it, and I thought, okay, perfect. So, yeah, all they can do is say no.
Mr. Chairman, they're always looking for matching funds.
Yes.
I'd be rather go that route.
Yeah.
Yes.
Than having to fund it all.
Yes.
Yep.
I'll be willing to put some matching funds up there.
Yep.
And look at the
Whatever it takes
entity.
to make it happen.
We'll use what we say for matching and let Triumph fund the entire project. With our match, of course. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And just when Triumph sees some of the entities, partnerships we have with TMH and our hospital, again, those are kinds of things that really encourage them.
Well,
But you look at, if you're trying to recruit retirees in, even vacationers, and then industry and business, of course, they're going to want a good healthcare facility. And so, you know, I think we can make some really strong arguments. And the economic impact hospital has, you know, they're probably, how many employees does the county have? I'd say,
How much the county has, Aaron, in total? The county employees?
200.
Total employees, let's see, probably about 180 altogether.
That
Okay.
excludes constitutional or includes?
That includes constitutional.
Includes
Does it include
constitutional.
education too?
No,
Okay.
that's not education.
Okay. But still, if you looked at just the main sources of employment, it's probably 20%.
Yes.
Those folks there at Weems, and they're probably some of the higher paying jobs in the county on average. You know, because of everybody has to be credentialed or licensed to practice in some shape, form, or fashion. So if you look at that ripple impact, and I'm going to put some numbers together for Michael and just say, if you lost that, that's a huge loss to the
Yes.
community, not just from recruiting all these things in, but it's a huge economic impact. If you got 180 county employees, we probably got about 120, 20-ish, 25 over there. You know, that'd be like you're losing all your county workforce. You know, so it's a big impact. Would have on the community, financially and economically.
Well, I don't know how the tribe discussion will go, but it was made, somebody expressed to me in recent weeks that the problem has been Franklin County doesn't know what they want to do with their tribe money, and that's, well, that's not a problem. We can come up with more projects than you got money for.
There you go.
So anyway, that's.
It's trying to decide which one you want to focus on.
Yes. So.
All right.
We're good.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Keep up the good work, sir.
All right, sir, so since it is 12:45, do y'all want to come back at 1:45 or 2?
Yes. Well, 1:40.
1:30.
1:45 is good.
1:45 is fine. Commissioner, downtown might be crowded, Commissioner, both, so you don't know how quickly you'll get lunch if you go somewhere.
I
So
see.
you
Okay.
want to do it for an hour.
All right, understood.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you're going for your possum sandwich.
All right, so we're going to recess until 1:45.